We'll get to the weekly buffoonery with Francis Suarez and Joe Carollo and the police chief nonsense, because there are updates to be had there. But before we do that, let's talk about this grift on Miami Beach with the 2 a.m. curfew. And you say all the time that wherever it is in Miami that you will find the bad stuff, just follow the real estate hustle. It's always a real estate hustle. Yeah. Where the little people get burned, and you have just politicians behaving poorly. So what's happening with this 2 a.m. curfew on the liquor? Yeah, especially when you have this effort to completely transform the economy of this entire little city here. And what it is it's a straw ballot item on the ballot, on this referendum. It's not binding per se, but what the politicians will do is say, we get this tiny fraction of a percent of Miami Beach voters who will come out to vote in this off-year election, and we can claim that we have a majority here of these people, or that we have some sort of mandate. They're going to act on that, and the question is whether or not all bars, but certain bars should stop serving liquor at 2 a.m. specifically on Ocean Drive in the so-called entertainment district, this 15 blocks that we are literally smack dab in the middle of right now. And under the guise of all sorts of nonsense that is just simply not true. It's disingenuous. The idea that this is going to help prevent crime, the idea that this is somehow going to increase revenue, that this is going to somehow save Miami Beach and its brand and Ocean Drive. It is the exact opposite of all of those things. It will reduce revenue. It will increase crime. It will transform Ocean Drive in the worst possible way, not preserve it, but probably turn it into another Sunny Isles, another condo canyon with towers up to the sky. This is 100% a real estate hustle. It also will cost the city businesses upwards of, I think, $230 million in revenue. And it costs the city over 70. This is a year, by the way. These are annual figures. It will cost the city over $70 million in tax revenue. It will cost 4,100 jobs. Let's back up, though. That lost tax revenue, that has to be made up somewhere. When this pandemic money runs out from the federal government, there's going to be major gaps in the city budget, and exacerbated by the fact that they're not going to have revenue from these businesses that they effectively want to shut down while carving exemptions. And Gelber admitted this. He said the quiet part out loud. He's like, oh, no, we're going to still let the big hotels operate. We're going to carve out exemptions for them in the city. So the biggest players and the richest developers will get a carve out from this. It's just the small businesses in Ocean Drive we want to destroy. And why do they want to do that? There's two reasons. Number one is the real estate hustle. And the real estate hustle is being led by Phil Levine, the former mayor and a real estate huckster here in Miami Beach, a man who, while he was the mayor, helped facilitate hundreds of millions of dollars in so-called flood mitigation pumps. And where did he put them? He put them where he owns property, is where he put them. So this scheme as mayor was to inflate his private real estate portfolio, and now he's trying to do the same thing again. Give this person's history to the people who do not know how it is that this man came into power and what he does with that power. So Philip Levine is a multimillionaire and a former friend of Jeffrey Epstein. He was in Jeffrey Epstein's little black book, his phone book, with 13 numbers and emails and addresses, including his driver, his housekeeper, his assistants, his home address, his business address, various emails. Phil was silent about that for a great many weeks until he was finally cornered, and his response was, I have no idea why Jeffrey Epstein has all of my information in his little black book. You can surmise why, but the bottom line is this guy came into power on the coattails of the Clintons. He had a lot invested in the Clintons, and he thought that Hillary was going to be president, and he was going to basically sail into the governor's mansion in the state of Florida, and maybe someday, I don't know, get some kind of position in the Clinton administration. Maybe he would be ambassador to Jeffrey Epstein Island or the ambassador of Lolita Express. I don't know what he expected to do, but obviously it didn't go as expected. And nonetheless, he didn't realize the gravy train had derailed, and he still went ahead. I called him a magician because he made over $25 million of his own money disappear in this misguided effort to try to run for governor. And he lost I don't even think he won Miami-Dade County in the Democratic primary in August of 2018.
But long story even longer, this guy has a lot of real estate interests. He has a very heavy hitter partner in his real estate interests, who he actually, when he was elected mayor of Miami Beach, a man who had, by the way, admittedly never even, I think, voted in a municipal election before, run successfully for mayor on the backs of his, or I should say on top of his millions and millions of dollars that he could invest in this race in a city of 100,000 people that he thought was going to be his entree into major duty politics. He failed at that. Despite spending tens of millions of dollars. And now he is fully invested in this real estate hustle, which is to basically intentionally blight Ocean Drive and then buy it for pennies on the dollar, so to speak, and then redevelop it as effectively a condo canyon. And to the great detriment of the property value, to the great detriment of, put it to you this way, they're going to have to raise the taxes of all the businesses and all of the residents in the city of Miami Beach to make up for the lost revenue from this totally misguided attempt to make Phil Levine richer. So that's what you're really doing. You're going to vote as to whether or not to make Phil Levine and a bunch of millionaire and billionaire developers even richer by letting them take over and destroy Ocean Drive.
How is this on the ballot, and what do people listening to this need to do when to prevent any of this in such a small city where this never gets prevented? And business owners here on South Beach are very scared.
What's so fucked up about this is that this is a failure of the public sector, and they are unfairly vilifying the private sector. You come and party at a business on Ocean Drive, inside a business, by and large, you're safe. They keep you protected. There is security. The second you go out onto Ocean Drive, it becomes a little bit dicier. But that's not the purview of the private business owners. That's the failure of the city and the police department. That's a failure of Dan Gelber. That's a failure of city manager Alina Hudak. That is a failure of Clements, the police chief. That is a failure of Mickey Steinberg, a failure of Ricky Ariola, a failure of Michael Gongora, a failure of Stephen Miner, a failure of Mark Simulian, a failure of David Richardson. These are the commissioners who have been failing to act to effectively police and secure the city property, the public property, to fail to protect the businesses, to fail to protect the residents, and to fail to protect our tourists in any other tourist town. Vegas, New Orleans, Bourbon Street, New York.
You protect the tourists. You got to protect the money.
You protect the tourists. They have a good time. They come back. They don't care what color the tourists are. They don't care what music they listen to. Miami Beach has attempted to institute over the years what I call backdoor Jim Crow laws, to basically send a message to tourists of color that you're not welcome here anymore. It hasn't worked, and now they're like, let's just burn the whole thing down then to keep black people from coming to Miami Beach. That's sort of the unspoken part of all this. But the reality is that there is no incentive to change the way in which they police this street, and that's really the problem. What's really the problem is that there is no civilian oversight or authority over these police departments. They are run by unions and by rank-and-file officers who do not even live in the city. They are not constituents. They are not taxpayers. And they have they hold communities that they don't live in hostage, and they do not want to reform. They do not want to find new ways of police. This is 15 blocks, Dan. How can they not fucking police this road? How hard can it possibly? It is 1 block wide, and it is 15 blocks long. It ends at South Point Park at Government Cut with a body of water and Nikki Beach, and it ends at a dead end on 15th Street, and then has these little side streets, for crying out loud. They can figure it out. It just doesn't conform with militarization. It requires imagination, and that's what they don't want to do. They don't want to say, well, like, how can we create a more tourist-friendly, customer service, community-oriented system and style of policing here? They don't want to do it. They want to sit in their cars, and they don't want to do the job.
You have some solutions that you've articulated here before. We will reiterate them in a moment. But to the question of what can the people listening do right now?
Vote no. Vote no. Just vote no. Send a message to these clowns. Mayor Gelber had a secret Zoom meeting in September, last month, with Alina Hudak, the city manager, himself. Mayor Levine convened over it, and a whole group of high-level, very powerful millionaire and billionaire developers. I think virtually none of whom are currently invested in Ocean Drive. These are the guys who want to come in and buy it out after the city intentionally fails to secure and police it for the sake of its residents, its business owners, and its tourists. Usually you don't get a secret meeting like this. I always call these things conspiracies of convenience, which basically means everybody knows which side their tostada is buttered on, and they all act in their own self-interest. They don't have to get together in a dark, smoky room, right? Like a Dick Tracy movie or a James Bond movie and plot. They can just, everybody knows their role, and they just play their part, and everybody gets rich. What happened here was they actually met via Zoom. They all got together, and Phil Levine convened like Big Boy Caprice, like Al Pacino in Dick Tracy, and said, this is how we're going to do it. And he did it with the mayor, and he did it with the city manager. They talked about creating a PAC, which I believe is unethical and illegal. And I love lawyers and mayors like Dan Gelber who try to clean up the record after the fact. He's like, well, listen, I can't actually participate in a call about a PAC while he's actually in the middle of participating in a call about a PAC. And then he says, basically, I will do whatever it is you want to do. And anything you want to put on the ballot, I will get on the ballot. That's what he says to them. So he's basically face down, ass up in this Zoom meeting going, lube optional, whatever you guys want to do. He said it loud and clear. So you ask, how do these things get on the ballot? It's because millionaire and billionaire developers want to put it on the ballot. And then people like Phil Levine, who have been basically finding ways to subsidize his own private real estate interest using taxpayer money, figures out how to do that.
We'll play that sound here and just remind you again to vote no on this if this is something that upsets you, if what it is that Billy has been talking about here for weeks, because it has been the case in this city for a very long time that people get away with a lot of different stuff with their power because people aren't looking, and they do it very brazenly. In the history of this city, what do you regard as the greatest of the real estate hustles?
Well, there's too many. I think the most kind of informative one here is Sunny Isles, which was a strip of motels with a lot of character, a lot of personality, but didn't generate a ton of revenue as the world started to change into more higher end developments and condos. And while nobody was looking in this small little municipality, I don't think anyone has ever really, I don't know that there's any press that covers Sunny Isles, to tell you the truth. They just very quietly and very corruptly created a condo canyon. They let developers come in and have their way with the entire city and created a wall that if you're driving through Sunny Isles right now, you would have no idea the Atlantic Ocean was there. There's virtually no parks, no green space, no public right-of-way or openings between Collins and the beach. They're all private. They basically privatized the city, privatized the beach. It's known as Little Moscow or Little Odessa, depending if you're from Russia or Ukraine. And they've created this whole weird world within Miami-Dade County where developers had their way. I think downtown Miami and Brickell are good examples of that too. It was a blank canvas where the city could have said 20 years ago, we're going to create a master plan. We're going to have a vision. We're going to have some leadership here where we're going to say, we have this blank slate. What can we do to create real quality of life, create parks? We had streets that were built for horse and buggies here in downtown Miami. There's a little, single lane, one-way streets and everything. And how are we going to create infrastructure? How are we going to create a real modern city here? They didn't. They let every developer on every block build buildings on top of buildings. They sold people waterfront views, and then they built buildings blocking those waterfront views. There's no quality of life in Brickell. It's not safe for pedestrians or for bicyclists. You can only drive, but yet you can't get anywhere when you drive. And there is just a mess of a skyline. There's no vision. It was just, and developers came in and they paid development impact fees saying, well, obviously we're going to come here and it's going to have some sort of impact on the community. So we're going to pay this fee to the city. Where did that money go? They didn't build a single fucking park. I can tell you that. They didn't do anything for quality of life. There's no new schools down there. There's just condos as far as the eye can see and as far in the sky as they can go. And nobody did anything to create any leadership or any vision. And that's what's happening here on Ocean Drive as well. There is a lack of vision and a lack of leadership. They are simply, they are unable to control and transform policing into a modern and tourism-friendly a way of doing so, and then they're just going to be like, okay, well, let's close the businesses down and build condos.
There's no getting around the way that this is meant, and you articulated some of it before, to get black and brown people out of here.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and some of the actions that they've taken over the last 10, 15, 20 years have been pretty overt in that regard. I mean, they're programming from Memorial Day right now, and they have this diverse cross-section of artists and genres of music that they're talking about. Pop, and jazz, and electronica, EDM. The list goes on. What do you think is absent from that? What genres of music? There is no hip-hop and R&B that they're planning on programming on that list, which, by the way, hip-hop has made Miami Beach go round now for over 20 years. And that's the thing to remember. There's a disconnect. We talk about this all the time between locals and Ocean Drive, right?
Well, tell people the history here as it relates to Memorial Day weekend and how much hip hop has influenced this area in ways that until they bring out the tanks and the fighter pilots and the police militarization, it's a pretty fun party that that has its, that's over the years had its bad moments, but the way the police are enforcing it now, it's as harsh and unpleasant as it's ever been. It's just at the weekend you can't get anywhere because of how much, if they can't police this strip except when they want to.
Right, and then they do it in the worst possible way, the least welcoming way, the least community-friendly way. They need to fix Ocean Drive. Nobody's arguing that there aren't issues on Ocean Drive that need to be addressed. The problem is they have failed to address them. And instead of addressing them, because it's too hard to address them, they're just like, fuck it, burn it down and let's run a real estate scheme, which is more often than not what they do. The thing to remember is that this is, I think about Liquid. Boy, that's a throwback, right?
The nightclub.
The nightclub Liquid, which was probably for a time the most famous nightclub
Madonna was there, and it had all of the intrigue. It was when this area was a nightclub town. Yeah. This is no longer a nightclub town. This is all the nightclubs are gone.
It was the biggest club during the renaissance of Miami Beach in the mid 1990s, early to mid 1990s. And in the front room was electronic music, electronica, techno. What appealed to the wealthy European tourists who started coming here chasing the models, because Ocean Drive, I mean, certainly per square foot, had the most attractive people in the world, female and male, on this street, because every single modeling agency in the world was here, had a block to block. It was extraordinary. It looked like Birdcage, like the way the extras are sort of in Speedos and bikinis rollerblading down. It looked like that. It was that absurd and beautiful. And in the back room was hip hop. And then that changed as American culture changed, as hip hop music and hip hop culture became American culture, that the big room was hip hop and the smaller room. Then the electronic music became like a niche thing until EDM blew up. That kind of cycle played out 20 years later, or played through. And I think about that a lot, because that's when you could argue that Miami Beach changed in many ways. It became a little bit more commercial. It wasn't just kind of rich people and celebrities looking to kind of party quietly and away from the prying eyes of the paparazzi in New York and LA, but it suddenly became a more, we'll say, mainstream experience through hip hop, because that was mainstream American culture at the time. And Miami Beach kind of lost its mind in many ways. And for years during Memorial Day weekend, which became the hip hop weekend, this was a spontaneous grassroots thing by hip hop DJs all over the country in about 2000, 2001, who just said, hey, we're going to Miami Beach. We're going to South Beach for Memorial Day weekend. And that became a really fun and cool annual tradition. And Miami Beach they fucking melted down. They just didn't know what to do with it. They just had no idea. And so what they did was they militarized, they created a green zone, and they locked down the causeways with license plate readers. They locked down Ocean Drive. Instead of creating a pedestrian-friendly street, they just said, fuck it, we're just going to shut it down to traffic, which is a good idea conceptually, but they didn't execute it well, like everything else in this city. When they have a good idea, they still manage to screw it up. And that's what happened here. And over the years, then, there's become this disconnect between I think Miami-Dade County residents and Ocean Drive. I've joked about it before that if you live in Orlando, you don't go to Disney World every weekend, right? There's some things that are for the tourists and some things that are for the locals. So that's become the kind of arm's length relationship that I think residents in Miami Beach and in Dade County have with Ocean Drive. The reality is, though, the people who are here and work here, they are Miami Beach too. They might not necessarily be able to afford to live here. Some of them can afford to live in North Beach, but the people who work in the entertainment district, they are Miami Beach as much as any of the residents or any of the politicians or any of the developers are, because they actually work for Miami Beach, because the revenue that they generate, including significant revenue between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. at these establishments, it subsidizes Miami Beach. It keeps your property taxes low. It finances the police, for crying out loud. It pays for the police. So if you suddenly don't have this revenue anymore, everybody else is going to have to pay for it. And 4,100 jobs lost. You're literally taking food out of the mouths of children here, of people who come and work to keep your taxes low, people who come to work for the city of Miami Beach. And do you think the business owners on Ocean Drive don't want Ocean Drive to be safer, don't want to curb crime, don't want to generate more revenue? It's everything that the other side claims they're trying to do, disingenuously, okay, in pursuit of a real estate hustle to effectively make millionaires and billionaires richer on the backs of these poor and working class people. That's exactly what voting no will accomplish. It will hopefully focus the city on solving the actual problems.
Before we get to Francis Suarez, Joe Carollo, and the updates with the police chief, just reiterate for the people again, because you're not just complaining. You do have practical solutions. I don't know if anyone's listening, but you're not just whimpering and whining about things that are wrong and unjust. You have some pretty easy fixes, I think.
I don't want to say that they're easy, but these are the types of things you would at least try before you burn the whole damn thing down in pursuit of a real estate hustle on behalf of rich people and put a bunch of poor people out of work, for crying out loud. The types of things you do is say, well, you look at Bourbon Street and you look at Times Square and you look at Las Vegas, who gets a lot more tourists than we do here in not quite as small an area, but they're all concentrated on the Strip. They all are, where there's been overdevelopment and where there's no dearth of crime, but where they manage to create an experience that is hospitality oriented. They don't do that here. So what you do is you create a Lincoln Road out of Ocean Drive, meaning you beautify it as a walking street, not just, again, as a driving street that's just shut down to traffic. You create a promenade street experience. You kind of extend Lummis Park into it and make a park here. And then you have an area in which you can police, and you have an area in which you can make secure. You have an area in which you can have CCTV, and then you have to transform the way that the police operate. You need a Instagrammable deco substation for the Miami Police Department on Ocean Drive, like they have for the NYPD in Times Square. They have that really cool with the neon sign and the glass brick. And then they have officers there who are integrated seamlessly into the tourist experience, who are almost like the beefeaters in London, at the palace. You take a picture with the guards, that kind of a thing. So you need new uniforms. You need hospitality training. You need CCTV. You need a different kind of policing in this 15 blocks. It is perfectly doable.
Tell people what CCTV is.
Closed circuit TV, it means surveillance in the public areas, okay, to identify and have people watching who can identify problematic people and behavior, and they can be approached in a civil and customer service friendly way by police officers who are in communication with people monitoring that. This is all very doable. You look at Piccadilly in London, there are places that are more difficult to police than Ocean Drive that don't have the kind of fuckery that we have here. It's absolutely doable, but it requires the participation of the FOP, who are problematic in the city of Miami, who are problematic here in the city of Miami Beach, who do not have any incentive to change, okay? And they don't listen either. If they decide it's too hot to go outside and put on shorts and patrol Ocean Drive, they'll just sit in their car and the union says, fuck them. That's fine. They don't listen. They don't necessarily listen to, I don't know if they listen to the police chief. I don't know. They certainly don't listen to the civilian elected body that is supposed to be governing this town. And so there needs to be a different kind of relationship with the police, and the police need to, by the way, there are people who are receptive to this idea in the police. I think the union by and large is what's so obstinate. And I'm not certain exactly why we have a police union. They want to be called, sergeants and lieutenants and captains and corporals and chiefs, but they don't seem to function in a following orders kind of a mode. They want to be this quasi-military organization, but they don't want to participate in the discipline necessary to be such an organization. So I think that there are people who are receptive to these ideas, but the government doesn't know how to do it. Alina Hudak, whose husband is Chief Hudak in Coral Gables, she was supposed to have kind of a better idea on how to channel policing into this, but she's failed. She's failed to do that so far. So this is on Alina Hudak, the blood of the tourists murdered on this street in broad daylight, mind you, not at 3 a.m., not at 2 a.m., but at 6:20 p.m. with the light still in the sky, getting executed, sitting outside on Ocean Drive, dining with his 1-year-old child and his young wife. The blood is on the hands of this government, not on the private business owners that want Ocean Drive to be safe, but on the failures of the city government and the police department. And now they want to blame the private sector for it in a real estate hustle.
The Hudaks are sort of police royalty in this town. Are you saying or intimating that she simply failed, or is somehow in on the grift?
I don't know the answer to that. I know that she was on this call last month with the developers and with Mayor Gelber and Phil Levine, Jeffrey Epstein's buddy. I know that for a fact. How complicit she is in the real estate hustle remains to be seen. I do know that she has failed to even attempt to solve the problem in any of the logical ways in which I've just presented, and is skipping right to, let's shut these small businesses down. Let's stop liquor sales at 2 a.m., which, by the way, the idea that crime only occurs after 2 a.m. is utterly insane. And all that, by the way, this will just increase crime. Why? You've seen this in towns that have early last calls like this. They push everybody out onto the street. First things first is almost everybody stays to the bitter end. I don't go out till 5 a.m. You don't go out till 5 a.m. When there's a 5 a.m. closing time, there's staggered departures, right? Some people leave at midnight, some people leave at 1, some people leave at 2, some people leave at 3. By and large, people don't stay out and party and drink till 5 a.m. But when you have a 2 a.m., people are in it to win it. People are like, screw it, I'm just going to stay till last call at 1:30, right? And then at 2 a.m., the fluorescents go on, or I should say 1:58 a.m., when they can't generate revenue anymore, they're not going to sell you bottled water. They literally turn on the lights and they shove everybody, drunk and belligerent and a little kind of upset that it's so early, out onto the street. And then what happens? 100% of the people are driving drunk, are fighting in the street, and it just increases exactly what they claim that they want to decrease. But here's the thing. They don't want to solve the crime problem on Ocean Drive. It's intentional blight. They want to make it a problem. They want to continue to make it a problem so that they can come here and people will and the owners will be like, whatever, I'll sell to you for pennies on the dollar, and you come in and just have your way with Ocean Drive.
What is the latest on the corrupt and contemptible Francis Suarez?
There's been a great response to our video, mostly from like the Bitcoin bros. And I'm like, first of all, if you were so comfortable and secure in your business model, you could handle a little satire, right? The problem is that like, I understand, I've said this before, I respect the spirit and the vision of a decentralized, democratized currency, but that's not what Francis Suarez is doing. And it's these sleazy operators and these hustlers and these pump and dump schemes that give crypto in general a bad name. And so if people get defensive about it and turn it into a cult of crypto, it's not going to have a general and more broad appeal, which I think is a shame. So it almost in a way the community needs to self-police and get and call out and put a spotlight on some of these scammier crypto enterprises, the crypto cowboys, if you will, coming soon to Netflix, I have no doubt. But oh man, what a disaster that was last week, huh?
The press conference, you bombarded the press conference, you grabbed the notes off, you're trying to do your muckraking journalism. They left their notes behind and you grabbed them and they were embarrassing.
Can we just agree that Francis Suarez is not too good at that? They're hiring. I mean, Francis Suarez is his police chief, handpicked police chief, fired after 6 months. His first comms director, Rene Pedrosa, was arrested after molesting a teenage boy in City Hall next to the mayor's office. And now his new comms director, this incompetent Soledad Cedro, leaves the mayor's notes printed and handwritten right on the lectern after the press conference. The mayor, I mean, who doesn't fold up their notes and put them in their inside jacket pocket? Number one. Number two, when you have an entire entourage financed by the taxpayers, shouldn't somebody be competent enough to snatch those off the lectern? Instead, they left it to me.
But you got them.
I got them.
And what happened?
Well,
what did it reveal?
Yeah, it revealed that what we all knew is that Mayor Ponzi Postalita is a yutz, is that he doesn't have good answers to a lot of the good questions that the press isn't asking, by the way. That's something I haven't attended a lot of press conferences in my time, but I will tell you, part of the reason why we're in this mess is because the local press has not served as the institutional memory that we require.
You had the intent of getting in there. It was a big scrum, and there were a lot of people, and you had a question for him.
I had a question.
And the question was?
The question was, Joe Carollo, a commissioner elected in a single district, won by 230 votes, is, as we stand here today, the de facto strong mayor, the de facto police chief, the city manager, the city attorney, the commission chair, the director of code enforcement. He runs the city and everyone answers to him. Other than sell imaginary coins, what is it that you do here, sir? What is your job, Mr. Mayor? That was my question. That's a question, believe you me, he does not want to have to answer. If he had weeks to think of an answer, he couldn't think of it. He's had weeks to think of answers to these questions about Acevedo, his hand-picked police chief, the Tom Brady and Michael Jordan of police chiefs, getting fired after I call him the Ozzie Guillen of police chiefs, because he wasn't fired for any incompetence on the job. He was fired for pissing off a group of people is really what he was doing.
For saying the Cuban mafia of an institution that appears to be behaving like the Cuban mafia, and just got him fired like a Cuban mafia.
And let's be, for all of the dog and pony show of these hearings and these quasi-judicial proceedings and all this nonsense, Acevedo, and I don't have to defend this guy's record either. I don't know that I know that much about him in his record, but the fact pattern here is very simple. He did not get fired because he was a bad police chief in California, which was a record that Joe Carollo went over ad nauseum. He was not fired because he was a bad police chief in Texas, and he was not fired because he was a bad police chief in Florida. He was fired because he came here, he saw corruption and chicanery, he called it out, and the Miami Mafia didn't like it. And Francis Suarez, Mayor Ponzi Postalita, his hand-picked guy, said, "That's all good with me, bro. Acevedo is the past, crypto is the future, whatever. I'm doing my own thing." That's the thing. Francis Suarez has checked the fuck out. Francis Suarez has not fulfilled a single campaign promise in his first term. 4 years ago, he ran on affordable housing, mitigating sea level rise, decreasing the income gap, reforming the police department. The only thing he succeeded on doing is eliminating or helping to eliminate red light cameras, which I think is a good thing. But that's the only thing he accomplished. Everything else he ran on, homelessness, affordable housing, nothing, none of that. What's happening now? 4 years ago, he ran on Save Miami. Now he's running on Screw Miami. Because everything he has done for this city has destroyed the quality of life and the opportunities for the people who actually live here. He is the mayor for everybody else who does not live here. He's the mayor for people he wants to bring here tomorrow to effectively destroy the quality of life, raise the rent on everybody, and create what jobs? More service industry jobs, more jobs for people who can't afford to live in the city of Miami anymore. He's done nothing for the people of the city of Miami, and they're about to reelect him by an outstanding margin. Because in a democracy, the people get the government they deserve. But the reality is this guy's a fraud and a con man, and people are absolutely unquestionably buying his bullshit. Just like they're about to buy Joe Carollo's bullshit, too.
What's the update there?
Joe Carollo has been exploiting the generational trauma of the Cuban exile community. He has been putting his foot into the rifts between the tribes and the racial groups in this community for decades, and has been tearing the city apart successfully in order to kowtow to a tiny but powerful voting bloc of right-wing extremists, the kind of people that made Miami the domestic terror capital of the United States from the 60s through the 90s, actually arguably early zeros, where cigar shops were being bombed, post offices were being bombed, radio stations were being bombed, creating that kind of chilling effect on free speech, that kind of chilling effect on dissension, on any dissension at all. What a communist dictator would do through threats and intimidation, and in some cases violence. Joe Carollo, a man who supported segregationist George Wallace for president and was fired from the Metro-Dade Police Department, now Miami-Dade Police Department, before he resigned before he could be fired for placing a KKK parody ad into the mailboxes of black police officers. This man sat on the dais during a city commission meeting and defended a Proud Boy, member of a white nationalist hate group. He defended him, a man who confronted Police Chief Acevedo during the protests earlier this year for freedom in Cuba, and a man who was yelling at him that he was a communist. And he used the F word. If I had pearls, I would be clutching them right now, offending the dignity, apparently, of the uniform or whatever nonsense they said. From Joe Carollo, a man who offends the dignity of his office and of Miami City Hall every single time he opens his mouth on the dais. A wife beater and a racist and a demagogue and a wannabe tin pot dictator. This guy is saying that you shouldn't say the F word to a Proud Boy. And he says, I don't know if he's a Pride Boy. That's what he called him. Or a Native American or Antifa or Black Lives Matter. I know he's a Marine veteran. It's like, well, wait a second. I thought he was going to make the point of, I don't care who the guy is, the police chief should behave in a civil and professional manner certainly when in uniform. But no, the point was, I'm going to defend this racist hate group member. But those are Joe's kind of people. He likes the jackboots guys. He likes the brown shirt guys. He likes the secret police guys. It's like I told you, if Joe Carollo stayed in Cuba, he would have been Fidel Castro's right-hand man. He would have been the head of the secret police. He would have been out there beating dissenters on the street. This is a man who calls peaceful, progressive protesters, he calls them agitators. And you'll recall the police chief in his bombshell 8-page memo accusing Joe Carollo, Alex Diaz de la Portilla, Manolo Reyes, 3 sitting city commissioners of corruption. He said, I want these guys arrested. He tried to use the police department as his own secret police to arrest peaceful protesters that he called agitators.
This is not new, though. We've covered all this ground before, all of it, I think. What's the newest on Carollo? Is there anything new?
The newest on Carollo is that he's, as we know, he's running for re-election.
And he's won, right? He won this. This is a victory for him to be able to do this in plain sight, knock out the police chief when the police chief was just doing the police chief's job.
Fabiola Santiago said in several columns the past several weeks, which have been outstanding, by the way, in the Miami Herald. She said that this mayor, who was supposed to help us shed our Banana Republic image, this is her quote, instead allowed a third world coup of the Miami Police Department by Joe Carollo. Allowed it to happen. And she's absolutely right about that. And this is a major success for Joe Carollo. It's what I've been saying all along, which is that he is actually the man who runs the city.
I don't know, Billy, whether I'm more hurt, angry, embarrassed to see all of that play out in a city that I love.
And on an international stage.
Oh,
it's been covered by everyone.
It's just embarrassing. Like,
yeah.
But also scary. Yeah. I don't know what the chief feeling is that all of a sudden the police chief is gone for doing his job.
I think fear is an accurate feeling. And again, they relied heavily on the FOP. They relied on a fraction of the FOP's membership who gave the police chief a vote of no confidence. But less than 7% of the police force live in the city of Miami. Who cares what they think? Not a lot of people, present company excluded, like their bosses. You're not supposed to like your boss. He's supposed to hold you accountable and discipline you, especially in a quasi-military organization such as a police department. Who cares what they think, with all due respect? I just don't understand why they grant them so much authority over who their commanding officers are. And then there was commanding officers at this meeting who were offended that a female assistant chief who had just for the second time had her, who was brought in from Houston by Acevedo, she had her job defunded for the second time by the city commission. She called, allegedly, she called a bunch of these majors and commanders. She said, "You're all a bunch of pussies. Go fuck yourselves." She was in plain clothes. She had been fired for the second time by the city commission, who defunded the police, defunded her position. These law and order Republicans defunding the police, and they claimed that Art Acevedo didn't do anything about it. They were so offended by her language, calling them pussies and dropping F-bombs. They were so offended, such pearl clutchers. They were so offended that Art Acevedo didn't intervene. What was Art Acevedo supposed to do? Fire her a third time? How's he going to discipline her? She just got fired a second time. What's he supposed to say? She was pissed, and these snowflakes couldn't handle her language. By the way, she was right. Her opinion, her assessment was 100% accurate. They threw this woman right under the bus. All right, a woman who uprooted her life from Houston to come to Miami to help reform a police department that clearly didn't want to be reformed. They were rejected reform.
It has to be maddening to her and Acevedo to come down here, do their jobs well, ostensibly.
Yeah,
and
doing what they thought they were supposed to do.
And be disgraced. And they must look around and be like, am I taking crazy pills? Like, how is any of this okay?
The Miami Mafia is undefeated. They joined a cartel, but they didn't know they were joining a cartel. I said this, you live by the cartel, you die by the cartel. And that's what happened here. That's not the police department that I'm referring to, by the way. That's the city of Miami government is what it is. It's a criminal enterprise. It is a racketeering organization, and someone needs to put a stop to it. And apparently we're the only ones who appear to give a shit.
Mike, speaking of which, of only people who appear to give a shit, you can go ahead and have 3 minutes of conversation with Billy Corbin to close out the local hour here, because you and him, I don't know, I'm uncomfortable when you guys get near each other and a conversation about the University of Miami football program breaks out.
Has Billy Corbin done anything in that regard? No, he's just talking shit, making memes. Okay, I'm done here. I'll waste my time with him. Player hidden from the sidelines. Doesn't want to get in the game.
You're the golden cane.
Yeah.
You're the golden cane.
No, I'm actually doing shit. You're just
what are you doing?
Sitting out there just creating content and making Twitter followers laugh. I'm out here in these streets actually trying to bring about change.
What streets?
No, you're a waste of time. You're a waste of my time. You're a waste of my time. What I'm doing right now is actually changing shit. What I'm doing, I'm literally right now working it. You're just trying to crack jokes, and I realized a couple of weeks ago, you're not worth my time in this regard.
You were doing nothing.
My words on this are valuable. My information is good.
You were doing nothing about this.
Nothing.
You were doing nothing about this. You were effectuating zero change about this.
Nothing. I would rather entertain a message border on like canesinside.com, because it would be a better use of my time in this regard. I'm serious. I'm not doing a bit. I'm turning off my mic and I'm doing something else. Bye.
Jesus.
An excellent ending. He shut you down, Corbin, and you never get shut down.
I said it once. I'll say it again. Manny Diaz Jr. is doing to the Miami Hurricanes what Manny Diaz Sr. did to the Orange Bowl.
He's furious about you cracking jokes all the time. You got solutions for everything except the program. You got solutions for policing, for racism, for politics, for corruption. But
I just heard Billy Corbin diarrhea mouth for 40 minutes solving every problem known to Miami Beach, but all he wants to do is put out a fucking meme about the University of Miami when he went to this school. He's a waste of time. Bye, Billy.
Jesus, dude. Jesus. I've solved the problem already, which is they're not going to do anything about it. You need to stop giving a shit.
Yeah, which is what they tell you when but you go to City Hall. Yeah. I'm sure you've been told about the legacy Cuban mafia for years, but you're out here trying to do something about it. Yet I can't trouble you for a goddamn donation.
That's the public sector.
You are an enemy of the University of Miami. You are not an ally. You are the problem. You are the problem with this goddamn fan base. You just talk your shit and you don't do anything about it. It's something that could actually help here. You actually have a say in how this program is shaped, yet you just want to crack jokes and laugh with your friends and point from the sidelines and saying, that's their problem and it's never going to get fixed. Virtue signaling. Virtue signaling.
I think it's the opposite of virtue signaling. It's like douchebag signaling a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll admit.
Okay, fine. I'm glad you called it what it is.
But the
waste of my time. I'm turning off my mic again. Bye.
Nobody else has created content that has driven more recruits to the school in the last 20 years.
The bona fide.
We're number 59 right now, partner. What are you doing right now? Jack shit is what you're doing. I'm gonna make a documentary. It's called Jack Shit, the Billy Corbin Miami story.
The U Part 3. What am I gonna do that about?
It's gonna be
the Golden Canes.
I think it should be about vert.
Turn my mic off. I'm not talking to you anymore.
You said that
waste of my time.
You said that 4 times.
Waste of my time.
Vert U signaling. I think that's the name of the next movie. There's a U right there between the vert and the signaling. You're absolutely right, Mike. He deserves you. He deserves you to drag him with all his joke making. We'll talk to
Miami coin. Miami coin. I'm donating Miami coin.
He's gonna. That's not right. More jokes. Donate some of your passion.
That's all he's got. One trick pony. Turn my mic off.
Yo! It's belly time, Amin!
Oh my God.
Let's go!
Everyone in Miami is like, where was this last year?
Yeah, dude. Nemanja Bjelica looked like Magic Johnson tonight. Knee-jerk reactions are flying. It's opening night in the NBA. The Nets lose to the Bucks. The Bucks look supreme. The Lakers get walloped by Steph Curry, not even playing all that well, and the Warriors win. He hits the 8th triple-double of his career. 25 of the NBA's top 75 club were announced tonight. What is going on with Ben Simmons in Philly? And what is going on with Amin's cough? I'm serious. I watched the show today. I was very nervous about you. What's happening?
The biggest news. I can't believe you skipped over the biggest news of the day. The biggest NBA news, at least, was Zion Williamson in this commercial. Who the fuck greenlit this shit? Who?
Yo, the Mountain Dew commercial.
Did they not watch it? Did they not watch it first and say, "Yo, this is terrible. We can't release this to the public"? They're like, "Yeah, go right ahead." I know, and like I posted the screenshot from it, and my favorite thing is how many people said like, "Oh, his accountant greenlit it." Is that like that's the only way you can make money? Like, look, Zion, you need to look fat as fuck in this commercial, or you're not getting paid. Like, could we not have anything a little bit more dynamic? And the worst part was, Tom, it's not even a good commercial. Oh, Zion, better go back to your mom's cooking. Like, what is this like trash talking announcer supposed to be on 2K? I was floored that this thing, you know how hard it is for commercials to see the light of day, where you gotta go, you show up, you shoot the shit.
They got both of them. They're like, all right, we got Zion and we got Zach LaVine ready on the couch. What are we gonna be? What's the shoot? Like, what's the story?
As soon as like he was on camera and like there's a guy standing behind the camera looking at the monitor, that's like Zion's agent, you gotta be like, we gotta kill this shit immediately.
Cut. Hey, yo, I mean, I was thinking maybe they put a Mountain Dew Zero. Like, what if they put a Mountain Dew Zero in front of him?
Well, I mean, like, it's not even. It's literally. If it's just a Mountain Dew commercial, they're playing horse and drinking Mountain Dew, and he looks like that. It's like, it's bad, but you let it slide. But it's like the combination of he's fat, he's on a couch, he's playing video games. There's a huge bowl of chips and Mountain Dew. I'm like, all that's left right now is like, I don't know, like a pizza and like a cake and I don't know, maybe a diabetes test right there on the counter.
Maybe some like barbecue sauce on his face.
Put some barbecue sauce on his face, you know, a bib around him that's splotchy, and also some stains all over his clothes because the bib wasn't big enough for his messy fat, disgusting, eating ass. I mean, it's just like, what are you doing? Does anyone look out for this kid?
Tevin Campbell, shout outs to Tevin Campbell in the chat says the ad did its job. The commercial did its job. I mean, any publicity is good publicity if you're Mountain Dew tonight. We're leading our show on Le Batard with thousands and millions of people talking about Mountain Dew. I mean,
sure. Okay. Mountain Dew's happy. I'm talking about Zion. I'm talking about Zion's people. What about them? Are we talking about Zion in a good way? Any good publicity?
I don't know who you just turned into, but I want you to do the entire show like that. What voice did you just impersonate there?
That's the voice of someone who is completely frustrated that people could miss the point. That someone could miss Mountain Dew. Everyone's talking about Mountain Dew. Huzzah for Mountain Dew. The brand is saved. No one knew what Mountain Dew was until tonight, apparently. What about Zion?
It's not a good situation in New Orleans. We talked about it today. We taped the Meadowlarkers. Shout out to Kate Fagan. Shout out to all of the folks who listen to our show with Howard Bryant. I mean, you weren't on today, but I guess, you have better things to do / be on the actual Dan Le Batard show today.
What'd you guys talk about?
We talked about Ben Simmons and the player empowerment movement and whether Kyrie and Ben Simmons and Zion Williamson are dropping, double birds to front offices, and the front offices in the NBA are like throwing it right back. Is that unless you're LeBron James, player empowerment only goes so far, trying to wrestle back the power from the front offices and the owners and the execs. And it doesn't seem very professional what they're doing in their situations, or expecting that their teams will just bend over backwards for these stars. And we talked a lot about it. Go listen. I think it's going to drop either tonight or tomorrow morning. Anyway, I mean, this is the NBA tip-off post-game show. We have to talk some basketball here.
Okay.
Stephen Curry didn't look good. He had a triple-double. Nemanja Bjelica looked amazing. And for the first time in a long time, I mean, I felt like we watched the actual Warriors from their dynasty. Like tonight, the ball was moving. They had Andre Iguodala out there. They might not have Klay Thompson. They might not have Kevin Durant. But it really did feel like we were watching the old Warriors tonight.
Yeah, no, and it's a perfect case of what Golden State's philosophy has always been, or at least it's been under Steve Kerr, which is the offense will provide, right? If you pass and move, the offense will find you. The offense will create open looks and open layups, and that's what happened tonight. You want to? Oh my God, I hate autoplay videos. Jesus Christ, I just want to see a box score, assholes.
Wait, hey, I'm the numbers guy. What do you need?
No, I got a box score in front of me. I was looking at Looney 3 of 5. I was looking at Bjelica 6 of 7, Iguodala 4 of 7, like Toscano Anderson 2 of 3. These guys all got nice, easy shots, makeable shots. And that's out of the offense. And the offense, of course, is predicated on the immense amount of attention that Steph Curry attracts. So even though he shoots 5 or 21, it's just him being on the floor has a massive impact.
It's called gravity. I mean, gravity, for those who don't know, gravity is essentially when Steph Curry is on the floor and the defense has to pay so much attention to him because he can shoot it from half court in, that it creates open shots for everybody else. And I think Nemanja actually looked at this dude who is on the glued to the Miami bench. I loved that acquisition for Miami last year at the deadline, getting what I think is one of the most offensively gifted big men coming off the bench in the league. He can't play defense for a lick. He had some nice, high effort plays tonight against LeBron. But when you look at the gravity that Steph brings to your offense, you think last year they would have a better offensive rating than 20th. They were the 20th best offense in the NBA last year, despite Stephen Curry leading the league in scoring. He averaged 32 points a game, and the offense was garbage most of the time. And the reason is because I don't think they had enough basketball players, enough guys who can move the ball, had a lot of sensory of where Nemanja, Draymond Green, Juan Toscano-Anderson, Damian Lee. They were moving, they were cutting, they were hitting open shooters. And the Lakers defense, they couldn't handle it. Now, Stephen Curry, again, triple-double. He had a 5 for 21 shooting, but that gravity, like, man, it's crazy watching how much attention he draws. And Avery Bradley's going to try to stop him or try to, guard him one-on-one. But there's only so much what you can do. There's only so much you can do when you have so many good passers around him to take advantage of all that attention.
So to be fair, last year, it's not just their guys who aren't here anymore. It's also the guys that you see right now, the Jordan Pooles, the Juan Toscano-Andersons, the Damian Lees. Those guys didn't know how to play. I mean, they now they figured it out. Now they figured out the offense. Last year, there was a lot of gives at the beginning of the year. They were giving Steph the ball and watching. And so that's a huge thing for them, is that they got a year, and in some cases 2 years. Like for guys like Damian Lee, who was obviously there the year before when everything was really trash, and I believe Juan was as well. They got 2 years of having to learn this offense, even though they weren't very good at it. So now you put them in a position where we're playing one of the best teams in the conference on opening night. These guys aren't starstruck and they aren't shell-shocked. And also, they know where to go. They know where to be. And then on top of that, like you said, you add an Iguodala and a Bielitsa, and the IQ goes up significantly. And that gives you what you saw tonight. I mean, what you saw, I think the Lakers are better than what we saw.
Yeah.
But I don't think this is like the Warriors. This was a fluke or whatever. They got hot. This is their offense. This is how they're going to do it.
I think if you were worried about Russell Westbrook's fit on this Lakers team with Anthony Davis doing a lot of ball handling next to LeBron James doing a lot of ball handling, none of your concerns were unvalidated tonight. Russell Westbrook looked like he was missing, like he was invisible in this game.
First of all, real quick, shout out to Dr. Sideburns. I love me some Levitard, but Barkley and them boys on. Come on now. Well, I mean, it's funny because I did the same thing. I was actually watching Late Night with James Corden, and I stopped to log into some other shit to let them know I wasn't watching them because Corden was on, and then I went back to it. What the fuck is that, man? You wanted your shout out? Congratulations, good Dr. Sideburns. Welcome to the show.
My God, yeah. The Westbrook thing is I don't know. I don't want to make too much of it, but like preseason he didn't look great, and in this offense, I don't know how much they're going to need him.
They started the first half. Every basically dead ball or set play, he was the one bringing the ball up. He was initiating, and LeBron was just kind of chilling off ball. And part of it, Tom, is that's part of the problem, is that LeBron's idea of like how do I share is to just stand over there. All right, your turn. Do whatever you want. Like there's no part that's this. Like think about Curry. Curry gives up the ball and the stuff he does. And I get it. Look, let me just finish the fucking point, man. So Curry gives up the ball. He moves. He creates a diversion. And then there's things that happen. LeBron gives up the ball. He stands over there on the wings like, all right, man, go ahead. And so, like, I'm not making excuses for Russ, like, oh, that's why he didn't play well. But that doesn't help at all. It doesn't help when, there is no effort to kind of create an actual offensive system rather than just you and AD pick a role. Everybody else just stand over there. That's just way too simplistic.
Yeah, and I just think they've got to figure something. I don't know if it's bringing Russell Westbrook off the bench. I don't know if they're going to go to that extent, but I do think they need to stagger.
Hold on. When I brought that was a Zach Harper. Who was I with on that? When I brought up the concept of maybe Russ wouldn't be in finishing lineups, everyone lost their mind. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm not saying that he's not going to be in finishing lineups. I just say maybe because it's not a great fit out there. It's not a good. And by the way, there were other things that for instance, the idea that Kent Bazemore is a shooter or a spacer because he shot, what did he shoot? Like 39, 40% from three last year. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between hitting your shots and being a shooter.
Respect. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
The respect factor. JJ Redick can go 0 for 9. I'm on his ass as a defender on the 10th one, as if he hasn't missed a single one. Kent Bazemore misses 2. I'm going to start playing this way. I'm going to start cheating and sagging, and that just doesn't help.
If he's 2 for 2, I might just sag off on him too. Just be like, force him to feel like he's hot. Evian sucks, by the way. It means drinking Evian water. It's terrible. It's awful water. I can't believe you're drinking that. Get out of here with Evian. It's trash water. Shouts to Fiji water. Russell Westbrook -23 tonight. Look, not to make too much of a one-game sample size, but that was reflective of his game tonight. That was reflective of his performance. Not great shooting. He had a dunk at the end of the game in garbage time. Great. Not a fan of Russell Westbrook on this team in 2021-22. They might need him when LeBron James wants to either, take care of some injury and be off for a couple weeks, or Anthony Davis the same way. But to me, he's going to be an innings eater for a team that doesn't really need it right now at the beginning of the season. We'll see how things at the end of the season.
Well, let me ask you something also. I don't think Frank Vogel has ever been known as a creative offensive mind, right? Like, he makes his bones on the defensive end.
Defense. Yep.
To me, if those guys are all healthy, they're going to have to come up with some more creative ways of using them other than rolling the ball out like that.
Yeah. Yeah. LeBron looked fucking amazing. Amazing. 37 years old in 2 months, and he's looking as good as he's ever had, except for his hairline. Did you notice he's got a very closely cut?
Yeah, man. And it's not even about the hairline now. Now he's got the halo issue that Durant's dealing with. So I think he's trying to cut it low so you can't tell the difference between here and here. But you could tell because the skin is just too smooth and shiny from overexposure.
He has a new free throw routine this year, I love tracking this. Of course, did it for Meadowlark and Batard's show during the playoffs with Giannis, and how he was going, 17 seconds at the free throw line. It was a huge deal. Dan's going to make fun of me till the cows come home about being so obsessed with free throws. But LeBron James in a 2016
where do the cows go where they got to come home?
I think to the yard, right? All the cows go to the yard.
So is the yard not home?
Yeah, I think they go to the stable. Is there a stable? Is any farmers in the audience here? Cow house. Bryant Cook. Thank you, Bryant. The cow house.
Scuba's asking, is there still live? No, Scuba. This has actually all been pre-recorded hours ago.
Yep.
We're just able to communicate through the magical portals of the time-space continuum.
Yes. LeBron is doing another free throw routine. It's his only weakness, is free throws. His only
care
weakness.
To demonstrate this will play well as a podcast tomorrow morning. Care to demonstrate his new routine?
It's just one.
All right.
One dribble.
Thomas stand up. One dribble.
Up. Yeah.
Do I have
this is weird. It looks like I have I'm very excited to talk about LeBron's free throws.
You got what I mean. You're pitching the tent there.
Pitching the tent. So I think LeBron in 2016-2017 season, over under how many different free throw routines he had? 19 and a half. Over under on different free throw routines that he tried in the 2016-2017 season. Over under at 19 and a half. Let me hear in the chat what people think. Over under on different new routines that LeBron used in 2016-2017. 19 and a half. Over under. Let's see.
We got a bunch of unders here. Under. Over for Nathan Mimosa.
Michael Smith. The Michael Smith?
No, I think it's a Michael Smith. Over for Rock and Roll Fool. Over for Aaron Bustamante. Over for Kaiser Sose.
The answer's under. The answer's under. I mean,
19 and a half, like really aggressive guys.
It was 18 different routines, and mostly it's one. Like most NBA players have one free throw routine. LeBron James had 18. He's also the guy who has taken at least 100 technical free throws. This is my favorite part of the LeBron free throw story. LeBron James takes technical free throws, even though he's not good at them. He is the worst technical free throw shooter in NBA history. He's normally a 74% free throw shooter. On technical free throws, he's at 67%. And mind you, he's on teams with Ray Allen and Kyrie and J.R. Smith, some of the best shooters, Kyle Korver. And he continually taking free throws over these guys.
It's called exerting one's dominance, Tom. It's an alpha male move.
It is. It really is. So,
how do you parse out only technical free throw shots?
In the play-by-play databases, you can look that up. Yeah, like in basketballreference.com, shout out to Basketball Reference. You can stathead.com. You can't actually do like a query for it, but they do list like on all of his free throws that you can pull up all of his free throws and check how many were techs.
Easy, Dave Chappelle.
Yes. Do we want to talk about the Nets Bucks game tonight? The Bucks win big, 127 to 101 or something like that. The Bucks look great. Look great.
I'm surprised that there wasn't more action on them in terms of the betting lines to win it all, because they returned damn near everybody. They've got the reigning, I mean, he's not the reigning MVP, but he was like a year removed from being MVP of the league for the second time in his prime. I mean, they've got stability. They've got a system that they're really comfortable with. I kind of feel like, why are the Bucks so forgotten in this conversation when you have a team like the Lakers return 3 guys from last year?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is because people are infatuated with the idea of the Brooklyn Nets and their big 3. That's it. I think people are talking themselves into Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. And of course, Kyrie Irving not going to be playing for the foreseeable future. But still, I think the idea of 2 MVPs on one team with James Harden and Kevin Durant, people are talking themselves into Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. But that team tonight, their depth was absent. Like Patty Mills, of course, great acquisition for them. Our guy Mark Stein picked him for the 6th man of the year. He had 7 for 7 from downtown, and no one else on the bench scored. I mean, no one else on the entire bench for the Brooklyn Nets scored or a bucket.
Bless his heart, Javon Carter tried, though. He tried his damage.
Javon Carter, dude, almost had a 19 trillion tonight. A 19 trillion. He played 19 minutes, 0 points, 0 assists, 0 steals. Almost club 19 trillion. Shout out to Javon Carter, making all of us with bad hairlines feel great about themselves.
Especially since he's like 24 or some shit like that. But
should we be worried about their depth? Like the depth, I know Kyrie obviously being out. Are you worried about the Brooklyn Nets depth after their big 2?
Yes, but I don't think it's a Kyrie question. To me, I wonder, James Johnson, Paul Millsap, LaMarcus Aldridge, is that a big man rotation that I can count on? My guess is no. That to me is the issue. I thought Nick Claxton played really well tonight.
He played okay. Yeah.
In terms of just being what they needed in the middle. But he's just not enough. They need like 3 more Nick Claxtons. So they could sub him out and bring in another Nick Claxton. They don't have any of that. I think that's the issue that you're dealing with the Nets. It's that Millsap, only played 5 minutes, so it's hard to judge him off of that. But like LaMarcus Aldridge was doo-doo. And James Johnson hasn't been good in quite a while, to be honest with you. So it just was like they were just bodies.
Go Deeks.
Yeah, they're just bodies out there to eat up minutes, but not because they're any particular amount of effective or impactful. Even Blake Griffin, I don't think Blake Griffin's a starting caliber big at this point of his career. I think off the bench he's fine, but like that's your starting four. I don't know, man. Like I think the net again. It's people look at the Nets' strength, which is very top heavy, and they kind of neglect all the other things you need to be consistently good. Because at the end of the day, yes, is Kevin Durant good enough to erase all of those deficiencies? Sure. Do you want him doing that on October 20th or October 19th or whatever? Like, come on, guys. It's 82 games. We got to be able to figure out a way. Geez, another autoplay. Why does it delay? Why doesn't it just autoplay immediately when I load the site? Why would it wait 10 minutes and then start?
Because they want to annoy you as much as possible at 1 a.m. I mean, that's the idea, is that you're never going to forget this ad because it just pissed you off that much.
Was I supposed to do a local record, by the way, on this? I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not either.
35 minutes in. I just looked at my Audacity and said, I didn't hit record. Well, I guess someone's going to have to deal with some bad audio tomorrow, perhaps.
Yeah, we're going to keep people guessing who's behind the scenes here. It is Tony, maybe fake Tony. I don't know. Drew Holiday exits with a heel contusion. MRI apparently came back clean. Again, like this should have been a much more competitive game from the Nets. Their depth is an issue going off of this game. I am very surprised that Bruce Brown is seemingly out of the rotation. Got almost no burn tonight after being like an essential piece of their team last year.
Yeah.
Really good role player, does all the dirty work, switchability. He's someone who can handle the ball if need be, being a point guard at his previous stops, but thick and big and can rebound and guard bigs at times. Bruce Brown wasn't anywhere to be seen tonight, and it's game 1 of 82, but still that's a surprise to me considering how much he meant to that team. Glue guy last year for the Brooklyn Nets in very many ways after he was acquired.
Yeah, what do you think that is?
I think they're probably Steve Nash is trying to integrate the new pieces, maybe because preseason kind of disjointed for all these teams with big names is that they want to rest them. You know, the LaMarcus Aldridge, Paul Millsap, Blake Griffin. Maybe they want to get some looks at some of the new acquisitions and maybe take this first couple weeks as an extended preseason. But he's way too good to be glued to the bench.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree, and I think I blame LaMarcus Aldridge
for taking his spot. You just want to blame LMA.
I want to, LMA. Tom,
can you clear that? Stugotz, can you please clear that phlegm in your throat, please?
All right, Tom. No one wants to hear about Bruce Brown talk. They want to hear another B word. Ben Simmons.
Oh. Yes. Was it a phone? Was it not a phone? Sources are telling me it was not a phone that was in his pocket. Monday. Now we're in Wednesday morning recording this. Doc Rivers kicked him out of practice straight up. Get out of here. You don't want to participate. You don't want to be a real teammate and participate in these drills. You're out. This is the fascinating thing to me about this situation. I mean, Doc Rivers isn't Daryl Morey's guy. Doc Rivers is supposed to be the coach, the championship coach, the Ubuntu, to get star players to like each other, to play with each other, at least come together for the greater good of the team. He's supposed to be the star, the star maker, right? This situation has not worked out for Doc Rivers. He hasn't. He was brought in very much to make sure that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid were maximized, and none of this has gone the way that the Sixers have hoped.
This is okay. So, couple things. I've worked in the media now. This is starting my 8th season. No, my 9th season. Before that, I worked in the league for just about 10 years. I worked in the league, right? Different teams. Players get kicked out of practice every fucking day, man. That's not a new thing.
Okay. So you're saying this is a non-story. I mean, why don't you tell stories of people being kicked out of it?
I'm not saying it's a non-story. I'm saying, why would they leak that? Why would that be leaked? Why he was kicked out of practice? That A, he was kicked out of practice. B, why he was kicked out of practice, and C, for the team to suspend him for being kicked out of practice. That all seems
the suspension came out first. I mean, I feel like the leak about him being suspended for conduct detrimental to the team leaked.
Regardless of the order, I mean, he's suspended because of what happened, even though the suspension came out first before everything else. But still, the idea is like, why is all of that out there? In the same way that if he's got a hyperized or whatever type of medical thing in his pocket and people are erroneously calling it a phone, teams are usually really quick to correct shit.
Yeah.
Really quick. They seem to let that one just sit out there.
Yeah.
Oops. Yep. Did people get that one wrong? Sorry. So there's a lot of, I don't know, man. I think Philly is playing a dangerous game because I don't think anyone wins when you do this. You won. You won. He came back. You won. So the idea here is, and I'm not trying to let him off the hook either, but I'm just saying, like, doing all of this tit for tat shit isn't going to help anybody. It certainly is not going to help the trade value, which should be number one paramount priority for Daryl Morey and for the Sixers. But they're just letting it ride. So, like, I'm like, okay, you gonna, and then Joel Embiid comes out and says, I'm not going to babysit him, and I don't care about that guy or whatever. And this is obviously literally out 48 hours after they told us, hey, no, we love him, we're happy he's back and all that. Like, it can't be like that, man. You can't abandon ship on the strategy that quickly. You knew he was disgruntled. You knew he didn't want to be here. He just came here because he somehow just figured out he wasn't going to get his money back.
Yeah. How did that get miscalculated?
I don't know, man.
Like Rich Paul and their team at the agency, or whether it's Ben Simmons at Clutch, like whoever was guiding him financially on this. Like, I think it came out today, a report came out today that he hasn't gotten paid, period. Even though he's shown up for practice, the fact that he hasn't gotten paid.
Because the money's in escrow. The money's in escrow, and they just withheld the first 4 game checks that he missed. That's roughly about $1.5 million. So now, technically, he could start getting paid, except for the fact that he missed. He's going to miss this next suspended game. So that's another 300 some odd grand on top of that. Plus, there are a whole bunch of fines for missing practice and training camp and all that other stuff. So they're going to get their pound of flesh.
I mean, when you look at this situation, it's in everybody's best interest to have Ben Simmons happy, playing basketball, and being invested in the team. Because the more that he plays, the higher chances that Daryl Morey and their front office and Elton Brand are going to sign up, get a better deal, and finally come to terms on a trade, right? Because if Ben Simmons continues to act like a child at these things, and I remember Bomani Jones tweeting about this as it was happening, is like, what is he, 5 years old? Like, reading the tea leaves or reading the reports about, he did not want to play defense. Doc Rivers, hey, Ben, get out here. Let's run these drills, a shell drill. Let's get out here. Was that? No, you don't want to play,
but like, I guess.
Get out. All right, go. Fine. Get out. All right, fine. And then he drops his ball and leaves. It's just, this isn't helping you, Ben Simmons. Yeah. Like, this attitude is not helping you get out of this situation.
Well, the funny thing is, I should clarify something, because I've been someone from the very beginning. I said, look, if you want to get traded, you don't sit out. You show up and you make everybody uncomfortable. But you can't do it by outright breaking rules. Like, I didn't know that I had to clarify that. Like, you have to do, like, what are you asking? I'm doing what you asked me to do, right? So, like, James Harden last year was like, what do you want? I showed up. What do you want? I played in the game. But they can't fine you for playing poorly. They can't suspend you for playing poorly. They can suspend you for insubordination, though. Yep. So the idea isn't sit out the drill, say I don't feel like it. The idea is you go, you do the drill, you do it so horseshit They just say, all right, just sit down over there. They can't suspend you for being horseshit. They can suspend you for not doing it, though.
Right. Like if you're the Indiana Pacers and you're like, before this happened, you had Malcolm Brogdon and maybe a protected first round pick in there. If I'm the Indiana Pacers, I'm like, yeah, after this, I'm removing that first round pick. I'm done. I don't have to. I'm taking things off the table rather than adding them. That's what's happening here. And I don't think Elton Brand and Daryl Morey are going to be like, yeah, now we're going to do it. Like if we've gotten to this point, I don't see Elton Brand and Daryl Morey sitting here and being like, yep, we're gonna trade him for 30 cents on the dollar. I just don't think so.
I mean, I think well, here's my thing. Here's my theory. I floated it on the show on Tuesday, which is as long as Damian Lillard is out there and Portland is not a resolved situation, I'm not trading Ben Simmons anywhere. Because I know if he comes on the market, no one's touching that package. No one can come up with a better deal than Ben Simmons, a Ben Simmons centric deal because of his age, because of the way he plays, and what Portland needs and all that. So, if you are Daryl Morey, there's a part of this where you're like, it's all worth it. We're gonna wait. Now, I saw Casey Holdahl, who is a Blazers employee. He does kind of
he's their reporter.
Their reporter.
Media. Yeah.
So massive grain of salt when I say this, but he tweeted out today something along the lines of a Dame quote about, I'm not going anywhere, which is, we've never seen that before in the NBA, right? Like where anyone says that. Let me find. I've got the exact.
Mind you, right Russell Westbrook, by the way, is on his 4th team in like 3 years. Okay, just keep that in mind for those who remember OKC lifer Russell Westbrook. He's been on 4 different teams. Yeah.
Here's the quote. I'm not leaving Portland. Adversity is going to hit. There's going to be tough times. So if it starts off rocky or if it starts out as a struggle, I won't be happy about it. Nobody would. But I'm not going to jump ship and bail out when that happens. I mean, he could say that if they start the season 2-20.
Yeah.
I mean, like you and that's what Daryl Morey has to at least hold out for, just to see how Portland starts. Because the last thing you want, Tom, is to trade Ben Simmons and then like a month later, Damian Lillard says, get me out of here. And you're like,
yep.
I did it for Buddy Hield and I could have gotten Damian Lillard.
And he did give a shout out to Chauncey Billups and saying, I want to see this through with Chauncey and I want to play hard and see this through. Like, what if they do get off to a 3-17 start and they fired Chauncey Billups? Like, things can go pretty sideways in the NBA. And the other thing, you made a good point earlier, I want to get back to. Jimmy Butler in Minnesota. He blew up that practice that you were reporting. You were a central figure in that story of Jimmy Butler a couple years ago in Minnesota in an expiring year. Went in against the first teamers, Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, etc., and playing with the third team, just busted their asses in practice. But people think about that moment and don't remember the fact that Jimmy Butler played in the regular season with them after that.
Yeah. Well, he started the very first game of the regular season. I was at their home opener. They introduced him. The entire crowd booed louder than I've ever seen a home crowd boo a home player. Every time he touched the ball, Tom, they booed every single time he touched it. And what he did was he went out there and he kicked ass up and down the floor. And literally, I swear to God, by the end of the game, they gave him a standing ovation. Like, if you want to know, like, what's the badass way to burn your way out of town? It's what Jimmy Butler did in Minnesota. He went there, he kicked everybody's ass, he mocked them, he mocked the front office, he mocked the coaching staff. He may or may not have been wearing a Rolex, went out to the first game, had the crowd boo him, made them give him a standing ovation by the end of that game as he won, and he shot like 9 for 9 from the field. It was a ridiculous performance. I mean, it was like one of the greatest games that I've seen in person. And that's how you do it. You remind everybody the reason why you want to get out of here is because I'm too good for all of this.
Okay, so is it going to be the Jimmy Butler route where he's going to make amends, he's going to come in and he's going to play for a couple weeks and bust his ass and play great, and they're going to give him standing ovations in Philly? I'm going to fade that very hard. Or is it going to be like a Kawhi situation where he's going to like show up here and there and play randomly throughout the season just to check in, right? Just to clock in and clock out.
I mean, this is not a good start to the situation. Let's start there, right? If the plan was, hey, he's going to come back and play. I mean, he already got suspended. Like, we haven't even played a game yet. He's already suspended. That's pretty amazing. I think he's a little sloppy in the way he's approached this whole situation, and I think the Sixers are a little too heavy-handed in the way they've approached the situation. And like I said, the way both sides are behaving right now, this doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the Sixers get good return on value. It doesn't help Ben Simmons get traded.
When Ben Simmons does get traded, I don't know what we're going to see, because the underrated aspect of this is that he has been so vindictive with the organization now. I could totally see the 76ers just shipping him to Sacramento and just being done with it, right? Like, Ben Simmons, like, you want to complain about playing here in Philly? Like, we're going to send you to a market that is going to be a very forgettable franchise for you. Like, I can't imagine Ben Simmons is going to be like, yes, I get a fresh start in Sacramento or Indiana. Like, I can't imagine he's going to be super excited about that. And so, are we going to start this all over again?
At the same time, I would say that David Aldridge reported that Sacramento is now on the approved list for Ben Simmons. So maybe he's not. Maybe.
I mean, I hope they are, right? Like, I hope they are. I don't think beggars can be choosers. If you're begging to be traded and you're not willing to participate in team activities, I don't think you can have a list. I don't think you can. Like, Ben Simmons shouldn't have a list that he's trying to get. Damn, I mean, Tom, shitting on the Pacers from Keith O'Brien. It's not, I mean, look, it's not. I'm just looking at this from a situation of look at where AD went to LA. Look at where James Harden went to Brooklyn. And I don't think going to Cleveland or Indiana or these flyover states is really what Ben Simmons wants. I don't imagine he wants that. Maybe he wants to be in a quiet city that isn't going to be all over national TV. But to me, it's just an interesting thing that the Sixers don't have to capitulate to his trade demand wherever he wants to go. They can send him wherever they want.
I mean, they can and they can't, right? Because the whole idea is, if I don't want to go, for instance, to Minnesota, I can do the Steve Francis and say, you send me to Minnesota, I ain't going to play. I don't want to be here. And then Minnesota says, wait a second, why am I giving up a bunch of stuff for someone I'm going to have to convince to want to be here? So that in turn depresses his market value. So, I mean, there's no one, you can't act unilaterally, because there's always going to be an element of the leverage being lost in the process by a guy who doesn't want to go somewhere. Now, again, the other side of it is he might get so miserable in Philly that he would welcome a trade anywhere. And that's a different story. But I think ultimately he needs what he needs to do is he needs to play, honestly.
He needs to play
at this point, right? Like, because he didn't follow the mean guidelines from the beginning. Now he put in a position, bro, you kind of got to play now. You got to play well. But Tom, speaking of Sacramento, I want to get your vibe on this, because we talk a lot about how the players have so much power and player empowerment, whatever. I kind of feel like we reached an era where, like, these agents just need to shut up and go away.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
So Marvin Bagley didn't get extended. He's not the only one in his draft class who didn't get extended. DeAndre Ayton, the number 1 overall pick, didn't get extended either. And we're going to have a conversation about that in a second. But Marvin Bagley, who has not played well thus far in his career, regardless of how you feel about him, as a prospect or whatever, we can all say thus far he hasn't been a good NBA player. His agent comes out with this statement today that I was just like, all I could think of was shut up. Just shut up and go
From
away.
Marvin Bagley.
You doing this for Marvin Bagley? Are you kidding me? So this was the statement, as I filibustered perfectly there. This is from Excel Sports official Twitter account at ExcelSM. Sacramento has informed Marvin Bagley he is not in the opening night rotation, which is completely baffling. Completely baffling. It's clear they have no plans for him in the future, and yet pass on potential deals at last year's deadline and this summer based on, quote, value. Instead, they chose to bring him back but not play him, a move completely contradictory to their value argument. This is a case study mismanaged by the Kings organization. Look, I have a long history of mocking Sacramento as a staff, record label, and a motherfucking crew. It's not a well-run organization. The owner is meddlesome and is clueless. The fan base is delusionary, almost as delusionary as their star player. But Bagley having any sort of demands is just preposterous. It's preposterous that they would have any sort of kind of, hey, this shouldn't be said about, or this should be done about me or whatever. Like, shut up, play your contract out, go sign. They're not going to extend a qualifying offer. Go sign somewhere for minimum, prove us all wrong, and then go cash out. But this thing where you're going to sit here and we're going to listen to you. Actually, no. If Bagley was the one doing the bitching, if it was Bagley's dad or whatever, I'd take it, because players all believe they should be better than what they are, whatever. But this thing where the agents now are front and center, give me a break, man. And Jeff Schwartz is a great agent. He's been around for a long time, represented Paul Pierce, he represented Jason Kidd. Dude's accomplished. He's not like a two-bit agent who's trying to make a name for himself. But it feels like they're all behaving that way nowadays, huh, Tom?
Well, I'm looking at it like, if I'm higher on the list than Marvin Bagley and I don't get an extension, where's my statement? Right?
Oh,
like, if I'm a player of a higher caliber than Marvin Bagley, and I'm like, wait, where was my like shot at the Sacramento Kings? Or if I'm another player on his roster being like, why didn't you come out like talking that sauce for me? Right? Like, it's just weird that he extended the olive branch to Marvin Bagley, which, granted, like, averaged 14-7 for the last 3 years, hasn't really gotten better, been injury prone in his 3 years in the league. Like, I'm just looking at this and saying, for him, like, how many people were like, you know what? That Jeff Schwartz, great agent. You know, I really think they stuck it to the Sacramento Kings. Like, what is that? I don't know.
So Thomas Taylor in the chat says, it ain't about demands, LOL. Thanks for the laugh. Did you really laugh when you typed that, or did you at least smile? They mismanaging a player and the agent is saying it. WTF. They're not mismanaged. Look, it's mismanaged if he was good. You're not fucking good. That's the problem. It's like Rashawn Holmes is beating you out in a rotation. Like, there's a stronger conversation about, who are you, Marvin Bagley, to have any sort of hurt feelings or feelings of mismanagement? It was like Marquise Chris a couple of years ago. Is this a great organization? No. Do they do things right? No. Also, have you been this amazing breath of fresh air that was stifled by this organization? No. You know how I know? Because I've seen guys in that organization be mismanaged and still do pretty well. DeMarcus Cousins. DeMarcus Cousins was mismanaged to all hell.
Mm-hmm.
Still managed to be really freaking good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, Isaiah Thomas still managed to be really good. De'Aaron Fox still manages to be really good. Not as good as John Morant, though.
Halliburton, another guy. Like,
rolled over that
I was there. I was there with you, man. I just picked it up. I'm sorry. Well, like, he got real strong, and we know how that goes in the NBA when you put on like 15 pounds of muscle.
Yeah.
It always works out great. Remember when Roy Hibbert did that? He tried to get like 20 pounds of weight, and he was showing all these videos on Instagram about him putting on, like, lifting huge, incredible amounts of weight. I remember coaches hitting me up and being like, that is a bad thing. Like, those knees are not going to hold up. If Roy Hibbert is going to add 20 pounds of muscle on that frame, good luck. He's not going to get up and down the floor. I don't know how we got onto Roy Hibbert. The DeAndre Ayton thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is so weird. It is so weird. Like, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You tell me.
I was watching the Charlotte Dallas preseason game the other night. I was there at the game, and I'm watching your boy Igor Kokoskov with Luka Doncic on the court, and just thinking Phoenix could have had that. Phoenix had Igor Kokoskov as their head coach and drafted DeAndre Ayton number 1 overall. And then when he goes and plays amazingly in the playoffs, had an iffy finals, they decide to not give him the max deal. And whether you think he's deserving of the max deal or not, it's just a very, very odd sequence of events is that they take DeAndre Ayton number 1 overall, despite Luka Doncic and his ascension in the NBA and Trae Young. We can talk about that, whether he was worthy of being a number 1 pick. But it's so often in the NBA that you see a guy like DeAndre Ayton validate his number 1 pick status, have a great postseason, and then they double down and reward him for his performance. I was stunned that Robert Sarver, the owner of the Phoenix Suns, who went to University of Arizona, who picked DeAndre Ayton, the Wildcat from Arizona, number 1 overall, and didn't give him a max deal. I was stunned by this.
Sam Amick, who I wanted to have on the show, but he couldn't do it because he was at the Lakers-Warriors game. Turns out, by the way, trying to book guests for this thing, impossible. Because everyone was either on the East Coast and not as crazy as us to stay up this late, or on the West Coast, they're going to that game. The Lakers, everyone's at that Lakers-Warriors game, by the way. Apologies for anyone who say, I thought you guys were going to have guests. I thought so too until I realized, hey, this thing's happening at 1 a.m. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I would have done it had I remembered West Coast versus East Coast time. Because I was thinking, 10:30, we'll get this and we'll knock this out. It'll be great. And then I realized, no.
It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Yep.
Yeah. But Sam Amick wrote a really nice kind of, I've never actually seen anything as thorough as this. He interviewed James Jones, and then he talked to Bill Duffy and Nima. I don't know who Nima's last name is. This is the problem when you get to know. This is the problem when you get to know agents by their but like in person first before do their work, because then you know them, you know who they are, but then you're like, oh, what's his last name?
Right, just get to the point before you cough up a lung.
Anyways,
please.
So I'm not coughing up a lung. It was just a little peck or whatever. But basically he got both sides of the story on the record. And so James Jones says they wanted a 5-year max and they didn't want to listen to anything else. Phoenix felt like they couldn't offer a 5-year max because if they did, along with Booker's 5-year max, they would have had the maximum 2 you can have on a roster. There's a CBA rule saying that you cannot have more than 2 players who have been designated rookie extension of the 5-year max. So that's Phoenix's stance, and that they wanted to do a 3-year max or a 4-year max
to keep that slot open.
To keep that slot open for further trades. Bill Duffy and Nima say that was never broached. They never talked about any sort of max. They only talked about a less than max. The smaller extension number. And not only that, but they said had they mentioned about keeping that slot open, that conversation would have been like they would have been open to that conversation.
Right. Right.
So clearly there's a disconnect there. But most importantly, Tom, I have it on pretty good authority that Robert Sarver told DeAndre Ayton directly to his face, "You are not a max player."
Yo.
So even this explanation, which makes a lot of sense and actually is very smart of the Suns, to say, hey, we have an opportunity to go out there and get one of these elite players who have received this, we need to keep that opportunity open. That's actually a really smart rebuttal. The problem with all of that is, reportedly, allegedly, Robert Sarver told DeAndre Ayton to his face, "You are not a max player." And so it's a weird situation, because on the one hand, James Jones is pointing to all the money they've invested this offseason, an extension for Shaman, an extension for Mikal Bridges, and bringing back Cameron Payne and Chris Paul. Look at all the money we spent. And we were prepared to spend another 120 on DeAndre. On the other hand, we have A, this guy's entire resume of work as an owner, and B, this reported interaction between him and DeAndre Ayton, which comes down to a very familiar Robert Sarver refrain, which is, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to pay you anything. This is the deal. Take it or leave it.
Sarver, man, it's such a crazy story that one of the more incompetent owners in the NBA got to the finals last year. I mean, it's just, I don't know. We were just a few years away from Kevin Arnovitz's. Yeah, you're right. Wow. Just did the Owen Wilson. Wow. Trivia, and then we'll wrap this up. Amin El Hassan, I've got some Tom's trivia for you.
Yeah, let's do it. And you can play along too in the chat.
Stephen Curry tonight beat the Lakers. Stephen Curry and the Warriors beat the Los Angeles Lakers tonight. LeBron James now is 23 and Stephen Curry is now 23 and 17 against LeBron James in the regular season. In the postseason, Stephen Curry is 15 and 8 against LeBron James in the postseason. Which player in the NBA does Stephen Curry have the most wins against in the regular season? Which player?
Hold on. Does that 15 and 8 include the play-in game or no?
I don't think so. I think this is just the playoffs. I don't think that counts. But which player does Stephen Curry have the most wins against in his career?
So it's got to be someone in the Western Conference, or who played a lot in the Western Conference. And someone whose team would have been on the short end of the stick more often than not in the Western Conference. And it had to be someone who probably played the majority of that time when Steph and his team got good, which would have been 2013, 2012, 2013. So since 2012, between 2012 and now, well, the Lakers were really bad, but Kobe only played 4 seasons. I'm thinking I got 3 names in my mind. I got Kobe, I got Chris Paul / one of the other Clippers, and I've got James Harden.
James Harden has the 4th most L's against Stephen Curry. He is.
Are any
Stephen
Clippers
Curry.
in that top 3?
Yeah. So there is all Clippers in 1, 2, 3, and 5. James Harden is 4.
So
Who is number 1?
Blake Griffin.
No.
DeAndre Jordan.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
DeAndre Jordan. Very good. I don't think anyone in the chat got that. DeAndre Jordan, 30 wins against DeAndre Jordan, 30-14 in the regular season. Against Chris Paul, he is 28-22. Stephen Curry is 28 wins against Chris Paul, 30 wins against DeAndre Jordan. And actually, count another one, 31 against DeAndre Jordan, who is a teammate of LeBron James in LA. So 31 wins for DeAndre Jordan, including tonight. Stephen Curry, courtesy of basketballreference.com. Let's see. Now let's go to the flip side. Which player has the most wins against Stephen Curry? How many L's? It's 24 L's against James Harden. I just said the answer. So
and there it is. James Harden.
Yeah. 28-24 against James Harden in the regular season.
Nice.
All right. That is your Tom's Trivia. Anything else we need to hit here? I mean, before we take this out?
No, I think we gave everybody a nice solid hour of basketball talk. We talked Zion and his fat ass in that commercial. We talked about the games. We talked about the extensions and the lack thereof. We talked about Ben Simmons and the device in his pocket. We didn't talk Kyrie, but you know what? Let's give Kyrie a break for the night. How about that?
Yeah. And you know what? Thank you for staying with us. It's 1:45 in the morning, and the NBA season is upon us. Ben Simmons has not played. I don't know if he'll play. Kyrie Irving, he has not played. I don't know if he'll play. But big slate of NBA Wednesday nights. Thanks for listening. Batard show. Amin was impeccably sober, but still had lots of things in his throat. So thanks for joining, Amin.
Never doing this again. Not on the East Coast, at least.
Well, what does that mean for me? I'm staying on the East Coast. I live on the East Coast.
That means you need to move.
Yeah.
Is Zion Williamson indeed fat? Because these pictures that I have seen from Media Day look much different in 2021 than they did in 2019. And we've been fooled before by his body on occasion. We have accused him of fatness, and then because he's so young and the rigors in that sport can get you so quickly to fit.
Yes.
That he can be fat a little bit. I think I'm rooting for him to be a little fat because he's still going to crush everybody, and I'm here for the dominant fat guy.
I don't want to say he's fat. He's chubby. Was Charles Barkley fat? Did we consider him to be fat?
I long for the dominant guy whose body wasn't shaped like you think it should be. And he's the only guy. This isn't Oliver Miller. Like, he's the only guy who can be dominant fat also. Like, where you're looking at him, and now that's not healthy.
Right.
And it's a bad idea on his joints when he's already having foot problems. But are the pictures correct? Because I'm seeing stuff that looks photoshopped on him playing video games, and he looks like he has gained a lot of not good weight.
A lot of bad weight. Didn't help that moments after he went viral in the bad sense with the comparison of 2019 to today, the injury news came out. Because he's always hurt, Zion. That's been the thing with him. But at least he was doing physically and optically all he could do. And just tough break. But when you show up to Media Day, middle of your training camp, looking like that, and then you have an injury following it, then you start getting mad at the player.
And it's a bit of a bleep show with the Pelicans. Like, what happened with Stan Van Gundy, that was weird. It's a weird thing to get rid of. David Griffin's feeling whatever it is that he's feeling. And a lot of people are talking in informed circles, Stugotz, about Zion and his family not being happy with the situation there.
Mm-hmm.
But it would just be great if the Knicks could get fat Zion and he could be dominant and I could find a reason to love the New York Knicks.
I mean, how long are the rookie contracts, Mike? How far away are the Knicks from being able to go after chubby Zion Williamson?
Zion's going to, I mean, it would be pretty unprecedented. Everyone ends up re-upping with their team for that first big contract. You never see someone put their foot down and say, no, I'm going to test free agency.
But you rarely hear these kinds of reports this quickly about him not wanting to be there. Too,
it seemed as though, like, from the moment he got there, New Orleans was already desperate to keep him because he's such a sensation, such a superstar, and New Orleans is one of those franchises that really struggles to keep those stars.
Well, if you remember the build-up to that draft, it seemed like a foregone conclusion that Zion was going to end up playing at Madison Square Garden for the Knicks. It was the Knicks, it was the Grizzlies who ended up taking Ja Morant, and it was the Pelicans. And he ended up in a place that, and people were questioning his reaction on draft night because it didn't appear that he was very happy with the spot that he had landed in, you know? So I am hopeful that he goes to the Knicks. I mean, he averaged 28 points a game last year.
So he would have to basically not extend and sign a qualifying offer, which is like a 1-year deal for like $10 million. When given his injury history, you would take $130 million up front every day and then try and figure it out from there. But he's going to be a Pelican under contract for a long time, you'd have to think. The question is, what does he do to force his way out? And showing up to training camp in this shape might be one of the ways in which you try and do so.
It's Ben Simmons. Look, man, I mean, you can't ignore what's happening in that league with Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons. They know, everyone's realized, all the stars have realized, I'm my own economy. I can afford, if I'm Kyrie Irving, to miss $500,000 cost me every game. If I'm unhappy somewhere, if I'm James Harden, I want to go run a franchise. I prefer to run the Knicks. I'm going to get fat. I'm not saying that that's what's happening. I don't think that that's what's happening. But these things are going to get more and more creative, are they not? Where Ben Simmons is just fleeing the premises. If you keep giving young people this power and they keep realizing, oh, look at how LeBron changed this game. You can't hurt me. My money is guaranteed.
But this is a way that I don't think anyone ever imagined. I'm just going to gain weight until they get rid of me.
That's not how fat generally works, but it's a great, if you want to be the guy, look, no one's done this well. It's always messy. It's never been fat messy. It's never been, greasy beignet messy. I'm here for this. Of course, is not surprising to you that I endorse this. That I endorse this as a powdered sugared way out.
I think we're attributing, wait, this is the master plan, going to treat my body terribly and not say anything in the press. Maybe we're doing some rationalization here. Maybe we'd all look very different from our 2019 photos, given how we were locked in our homes.
It's just the pandemic. That's absolutely right. Everyone got a little bloated.
I'd say maybe give him a couple of months, he'll slim down. He won't be what he was before entering 2019. Don't think that's ever... Did you ever think that was really sustainable for Zion?
It was so fit, though. It
was, but he'd never displayed like that ever in his past. Fat guys end up usually being fat.
But professionalism, like professional.
But the little Debbie.
But we've also, yes, the pandemic, but we've also played 3 NBA seasons since the start of 2019, right? Like, we played 3 NBA seasons the last calendar year, as Stugotz said.
Exactly.
So, like...
Yeah, but were they in the bubble? Were they in the bubble? Did they qualify?
They were. They were in the bubble.
Okay, so they were in the bubble. They didn't make the playoffs last year. The grind hasn't been that crazy for...
No, but Whittingham...
He only played 24 games the year they were in the bubble.
How much did he play in the bubble?
Whittingham's point, though, is well taken. You've heard me make the joke of Sean Kemp before. Sean Kemp got fat in the NBA, and I didn't understand, given how much sex he was having, given the cocaine problem he had, and given that he was exercising every day that vigorously, how Sean Kemp could go from being the Rain Man, one of the great muscular figures in the history of that sport, to being a fat guy. And Whittingham's point is well taken. They're putting him through a lot of drills. It's a little hard for a guy that young to get heavy unless he's just eating whatever it is that he wants.
And trying to stay heavy. I like your theory, man. I'm not going to rule it out.
Maybe he wants to stay heavy because then he's stronger, and that's a big part of being a good basketball player.
He played in 5 basketball games from March till December. That's a lot of time off.
And how much do you think he was eating? Like that, I can
more than he was playing basketball.
I'm internalizing it, and I know how much I ate during that time. I do the thing where I say I'm intermittent fasting, and no, it's just me. It's probably an eating condition that I just attributed myself. I just feel really bad about what I consumed over the weekend. I'll be like, I'm just not going to eat as much.
So it's just the pandemic. You do these diet. It's not intermittent fasting. It's you feel disgusting.
I have to starve myself in order to lose the weight that I put on. I put on like 5 pounds in a weekend.
At the Hard Rock this weekend?
I
were you
fluctuate wildly. I fluctuate wildly.
So when's the next time you're going to eat?
I'll eat 1 meal a day until, then Thursday Night Football. I'm going to go to that Muni lot and I'm going to pound them. I'm going to pound them. I'm going to drink 12 pounds of just liquid beer. I'll gain 12 pounds in water weight.
So it's gambling and pandemic and just changed patterns.
It's excess.
Changed habits.
Yeah. And understanding that if I just starve myself for 3 days of the weekday, I can get back to what I was before the weekend.
Well, it has been a lot, Stugotz. The amount of sports that we have endured over the last 3 months of injecting it, or 18 months really, of injecting it into our veins. But Mike Ryan, it would appear, I don't want to annoy the audience too much on this because they don't like Miami Heat homer Mike Ryan. But Tyler Hero looks really good. And if the Heat want to get excited about something, that would, for me, bigger than Bam improvements, bigger than Kyle Lowry, like that makes a Heat fan base hugely hopeful if he looks as good during the season as he seems to look in the preseason.
Oh, no question. But I wouldn't rule out that other stuff, like Bam taking that next step. Jimmy Butler appears to look good, and he looks healthy. Kyle Lowry pushing the ball the way he's been pushing the ball to the point where Jimmy's like, hey, I just want to stand in the corner once in a while and take a break. But if Tyler Hero can be good and can be like that sixth man of the year and be the guy he was during that, playoff bubble run.
Did he score more than anybody during the preseason?
Yeah, he was the top.
Been great.
He was a total points.
Yeah.
He was a top scorer in the NBA preseason.
Does that mean anything?
His advanced metrics were very good too. I think he also led in wins above replacement players during the preseason. I don't know. I don't trust him, so he's going to have to earn it with me. I know you're very excited about Tyler Hero, and if he is what he was this preseason, yeah, tremendous. But last year, I knocked him down so many pegs in my mind that I just stopped believing he could be the guy.
Okay.
He's going to have to work to earn that back.
But let me frame it for you this way, okay? Because a lot of people have made fun of me for a while here just because I reported something that was being said in Heat offices. It was not my opinion, but when they were looking for a comp originally, very early on, an organization that evaluates talent pretty well, that when he was talking about goals and having, posters up in his room, the conversation with him was, well, you can be Devin Booker, that's the ceiling for you. And people laughed about that. And he scored it in one game in the bubble, 37 points against the Celtics. I mean, it under different circumstances, that would be a kind of echoing memorable game in the Eastern Conference Finals, but we were all so screwed up, and it was a weird basketball season, and nobody was watching, and the Heat were a weird middle seed that ended up in the finals. That Once upon a time in basketball, that one performance would have been an announcement someone has arrived.
Yes.
And then last year was same thing we were talking about with Zion. And then the pandemic hits, and this already weird situation of going from Kentucky to adulthood to fame to I'm in rap songs. My life is Miami. I'm hanging out with Jimmy Butler, and the Heat has tension, and Jimmy Butler has tension with whatever it is his lifestyle is on social media and elsewhere as he becomes famous.
In 2017, Tyler Hansborough led the NBA in preseason scoring.
Psycho T.
2017. Did you just cherry pick a bad one?
I did.
No.
The last couple years, it was good players.
One, that was a good bad one.
That's
though.
a perfect one.
That is so good.
Can you scroll through it, right? Like who else led the preseason in scoring?
Well, I got to click it by year. Let's see. Jimmer Fredette in 2016.
That's another bad one. I remember that preseason.
Keep going.
Wait a minute. That is a good one for
15, Damian Lillard. Hey, we're back.
Hey, there's a chance.
Did people think based on that Fredette preseason that he was going to be a star?
I don't know.
And people weren't basing just that with Jimmer. It was quite a lot that he did in college.
Is there anyone you guys would crash your car to meet? Because there was a video of someone getting out of their moving car and it crashing to meet Tyler Hero a couple weeks back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what the tipping point is for me, but it's certainly not Tyler Hero.
Yeah.
Is there anyone that Billy Gill, man, Billy, I can't imagine you driving and getting so excited.
I drive.
Pitbull? Getting so excited to see someone that you simply forget to put your foot on the gas or the brake and you just run out of the car to do what? You wouldn't be too timid for that, would you not?
I don't know.
How badly is this car getting damaged? Is it like a couple $100 and you got to buff out some
you
scratches?
have to take your chances with
totaling
it. No, it's just you're getting out of the car with such enthusiasm, losing your place in the world because you're so excited to see someone. And the car, you're not getting out of the car at a high rate of speed. You're forgetting to hit the brake, and so it's going to probably hit something. It's going to roll to a stop because it's not in neutral, and there will be damage. Now, where are we with this hypothetical? Are you choosing someone to get you? Is there anyone who gets you out of your car because you're that excited to meet him? Because Tyler Hero is pretty poor on your list. Stinks if Tyler Hero is high on it.
I mean, if it's a couple $100 in damage, like maybe for Lewis Hamilton, but I'm not going to risk totaling my car for anybody.
I think you have to think, is the person worth more than the cost of damages, right? So, like, if Tyler Hero were to sign something for me and I were to sell it, it can't be worth less than the damages to my car.
But is that what they're getting out to? They want a photograph, right? They don't want something that has a value. That ostensibly is just something to show on social media that you met someone.
I'm just saying in terms of like risk reward, I would have it be someone worth more than the cost of damages to the car.
So then what would be the number of likes that you'd get on an Instagram post that would be worth it?
That's a good question.
And the subsequent press that you'd get for having your car crash, right? Because then you end up on like Oli and Dade, and you end up on all these accounts, or you get some more Instagram clout as well.
Over under 250 likes to have your car crash into a building.
Have to be way over.
Tyler Hero.
Way over for me.
250 likes is nothing.
250.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, I know, but blue bloods over here, the little check marks. Some people only have like 80, 90 followers. You get 200 likes. That's like double your followers.
She's an elitist when it comes to her social media.
I know
Definitely.
high schoolers who get more than
sound like an
250
elitist.
likes on a prom pic, you guys. This is
high
just
schoolers.
generational. Your generation didn't go through social media and just double tap everything. My generation did. We were born in social media.
Why are you shouting at us?
Very
Because you
bad.
don't understand, Dan. You don't understand. Likes come cheap for people my age.
But I think she's right. Like my daughters send anything out, they get like 500 likes. They do.
Thank
I mean,
you.
That's
You're
where
like
they live.
2
That's where
years
kids
younger than
live.
the youngest
you know?
person here.
How do you guys approach the social media posting that's like tragic news? Like
Yeah,
You know
I
what?
lost-
That's a great call.
I lost my father in a tragic accident. He was a he was a stalwart in my life. Blah blah blah. Everything.
I left
No,
him in the
no,
car when I
but-
met Tyler Hero.
Right. So you
and
put it out
But
there.
think about what you're saying. You're liking that someone
Yeah.
lost a relative. I
Yeah.
like that.
That's
Yeah,
not
the
what
heart.
a like means. That's not what a like means.
It has a heart, which is and it's called the like. So
That means I'm reaching my heart out to you.
I
Yeah.
can't.
I
I want you to feel good.
In that
can't
situation,
like
though.
it. I have a very difficult.
You just
time.
ignore it. Like I feel like you want people to acknowledge, like, wow, someone passed away. I see this. I acknowledge it.
No, it's a comment
I
of
post
my
a comment.
condolences.
There should be a broken heart.
Yeah, my condolences.
There
Comment.
is-
Juju says you comment. I agree, Juju. You definitely comment in that case.
It's called the like. I don't want an alert. Oh, Mike liked this post about your dad dying.
Well, generally it's like a nice photo, so it's like you're liking the photo, not the not just the caption.
Is me writing thoughts and prayers though really like hitting home with you?
No,
Like,
write something thoughtful, you idiot. Why are you gonna write thoughts and
Wow,
prayers?
Jesus. Hold on,
You're
hold
yelling
on,
a
hold
lot.
on. Why
You're
do
yelling
I-
a lot.
Why do I have to write something? I choose not to respond when I see those on social media.
Why are you lashing out at poor Chris Cody? He's just trying to understand.
just give my thoughts and prayers.
He's still
That's all.
recovering from that burn yesterday.
I am
2
actually.
days ago. 3 days ago.
And I'm recovering from the 6 a.m. wake up call 2 days ago, from the day after that burn happened.
It's a clean
We
pickup
got
in there.
we got to do a pickup there. She was like, man, it's because I'm hungover. I'm like, remember continuity. And then Billy's there because he got burned yesterday.
I gave you every day. We're good.
It wasn't me.
He did give every day.
How awkward leads the pivot? Or is
You
there-
said, why are you lashing out? We could just pick up from there.
Yeah, I think it's an easy way to cut out just those two contributions.
I'm lashing out because Chris Cody is just in the year 2021 giving thoughts and prayers.
Look, I'm a liker. I like it. I'm just saying I'm not. You were making the point, like Juju said, you got to comment. And I'm saying that I don't think somebody's saying, if they word it differently, maybe you say something heartfelt. But like, I just don't feel like that's.
But you're clicking a heart. That is heartfelt.
That's me giving my heart to you, let you know that like I feel your pain. I like.
But Mike is not wrong when he says I miss my dearly departed father so much. To like that feels like you're insulting the person.
I disagree. I feel like people grieve in different ways, and some people want to share their grief with the internet, and that's their right to do it. So if it makes someone feel better to post a picture and then have a bunch of people see it and like it and be like, wow, I recognize that person's grieving and in pain, then so be it. I'm not just going to scroll by that and leave them hanging.
But do you think a person has ever done that and then people start liking it and they're thinking to themselves, hey, what are you liking? I mean, I'm putting my worst moment out there.
No, I don't think anyone who's
Really?
posted anything has ever been like, why are people liking this?
If you're that sensitive with that type of stuff, don't be posting your grief on social media.
Wow.
If you're going to put it out there, you just take what you get.
That's right.
Likes, comments, retweets.
That's right.
Can I retweet some pain?
That's right. Yes, you can.
I'll retweet your pain. Because I
Why?
want other people to see it so they can like and send their heart to you.
So like if someone hears father died hypothetically, you would retweet that.
I wouldn't. I feel like I've backed myself into a corner.
You really have.
You have.
I just
exactly.
wanted to say I'll retweet your pain.
Wait, what if it's a pet? Would you retweet a pet dying?
What kind of pet?
Yeah.
Dog.
That is a different story.
Yeah.
That's like a
Went
person.
right to the top of the chain. huh?
What about a goldfish?
No.
No.
What if the goldfish had a funny name?
What's the name?
Larry.
That was very quick. That's the quickest.
Because
you've
part of
ever
my
been.
take had a goldfish named Larry.
Did they?
Yeah.
No, I
That's
just
what
like
happened there.
I like animals with human names. I honestly did not know. I know that they have a goldfish bit. I swear to God, I had no idea it was
Yeah, it
named
was Larry the goldfish. Well, somewhere in the darkest recesses of your mind, you did know
Maybe.
that because
Is
that's
Larry
why
still with
I
us?
do always like to give animals human
They're like
names,
on
though.
7.
But that's my thing.
I think they're on Larry 8 now.
Harry
wow.
would have been funny.
Do they give dogs the name Frank? Because that's my thing. I like animals with human names. I won't let Mike say. I didn't steal this from partner. I stumbled into that one.
I think you stole it for part of my take.
Maybe
you just didn't know.
subconsciously.
Yeah.
Why
that's
are
what
we
I'm
getting
saying.
stuck here that one time the way we did on Kendrick Nunn argument that never aired?
Well,
I don't-
never
it's not
aired. I will-
necessary.
I will hold it over you
It's not-
forever,
it's
though.
It's important we get to the bottom of this.
It's not necessary to deep down do a deep dig on whether or not he stole the Larry the Goldfish bit or not in the recesses of his mind or is lying about it. He's telling you that he likes to give animals ridiculous human names, and I think that's funny.
Fun fact about goldfish: did you know that if you put them in the open water, they grow to an absurd amount? That they're only small because you trap them in the bowl.
No.
But there was like this
No.
whole. I saw
No.
this lake
No,
that.
no,
like,
no,
What are you
no,
talking
no,
about?
Yeah, there was
Mike?
this-
Come on.
there was this
A
lake-
goldfish is a
true.
goldfish.
I saw a
This
news
can't be
story. I
true.
saw a news story on this lake that
No,
had, and
no.
they repopulate like mad. So there was this lake that a bunch of goldfish got released into, and they repopulated like crazy. And you could just like put your hand in the water and grab a 7-pound goldfish, just massive.
Let's
fish.
make this our
Cannot be-
fight.
This cannot be true.
Release all goldfish.
What as
No,
our
it's
cause?
like, no, it was a huge
I-
problem.
Larry.
I got to tell you, Mike is right about this. I am now looking up stories and I've seen images of the biggest goldfish I've ever seen just thrown into lakes. I mean, they grow to like, this is like the size of a barracuda.
You
I
are
mean,
telling me that by trapping these animals within a confine that is small, we are preventing them spiritually, emotionally, those little small brainless things from growing to a larger size.
Well,
so that-
spiritually, they could be growing. We don't know. Physically, they're not.
Is this a metaphor for the shipping container?
Dan, I'm going to show you something jarring here. I'm going to turn my computer around. I have an image of a goldfish, the biggest goldfish I've ever seen. You tell me what you think. This was simply the product of one goldfish being thrown into a lake. Okay?
I feel like I'm being fooled by the internet. This is
You're not.
This is not a real thing. I've never
They're even
seen.
smaller when you put them in pouches.
I've
Cover them
ne-
in cheddar.
How about this, though? The Washington Post, in a story about goldfish,
Deserved a better fate.
No, it didn't.
in a story about goldfish, they actually call the goldfish a pest to waterways. They encouraged Australians and Canadians to stop dumping goldfish into lakes because they are pests in the water. They're best kept as pets.
They're invasive. Our cause should actually be kill the goldfish. That'll be very popular.
I felt bad about calling Chris an idiot earlier, but
No, you didn't.
You've been very jagged about this, as if you have all the rules to social media done correctly, because they called you a privileged elitist because you think it's easy to get likes, and they're saying it's not.
I have no comment on that. I guess I
What?
am a privileged elitist when it comes to social media. But you know what? I fought hard for those likes. I was in the Twitter mines for years, Dan, trying to get those likes. I made bad joke after bad joke,
I
and I
mean,
worked my way to the top.
she fought Carrie Underwood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had
Born
to
in
fight Carrie
fire.
Underwood for those likes. Oh, see asterisks.
You said you felt bad about calling me an idiot while smiling.
She didn't feel bad. Though.
You can't say that word? Can you not say? You want to try it again?
It's okay. See asterisks, I think, is the right pronunciation.
Asterisk.
Asterisk.
Nowhere near it.
Asterisk.
Asterisk.
Stugotz. Stugotz.
How did you blow that joke?
I wasn't listening.
It's the easiest joke.
I was looking at goldfish. This has blown my mind. I mean, it really has.
How
It
high
is-
are you
it
right
is
now?
shocking.
It is a real problem. Now these goldfish are a problem. I mean,
did you go and smoke outside and now you're shocked? Did you smoke in the hallway? Did you smoke marijuana? And now you're shocked by these giant goldfish. and
I
you're
didn't
scared of
smoke
them.
marijuana. I ate it.
How do we feel about goldfish the snack?
I love them.
And you're not looking at goldfish. I'm seeing a slant being thrown to Noah Fant on your Twitter right now.
I just got Jerry Judy back.
I think that Chris Cody, our most beloved oaf, is
It just ended at beloved.
is thinking about, is considering going where a football take, I don't think, has yet gone. I don't know what's happened here recently. Maybe it's the last year, or Tom Brady making Bill Belichick look somehow less smart than we thought. But you're willing to get out here with this take, Chris, or are you still a little scared of
I'll
it?
say it, Dan. The game has passed him by. And this actually, and Bill Belichick, and this has nothing to do actually with Tom Brady. Well, he mentioned Tom Brady. That's why I assumed people knew where we were headed with that. It's not about Tom Brady. It's about Brandon Staley, my coach with the Chargers. I mean, Bill Belichick just refuses to check. Like, he went, like, I heard Mina say, like, I'm not going to say, like, I did this research. Mina, there were 2 times last Sunday where they punted at midfield with, like, 4th and 2, where everybody else is going for that now. And Belichick just is living in the Stone Age.
Chris, don't ever devalue yourself like that again. You looked up Mina's tweet. Guess what that's called?
Research?
Research.
That's right. But I'm telling you, it really, like, I know I'm doing this, like, you know, like as a bit, but the game, like, it's changed overnight. It's just people go for it now. 4th and 4, midfield, easy. Go for it.
It wasn't overnight.
Yeah.
We've been yelling at these people for years.
But now they're
for-
actually listening. You've been yelling, but now all of a sudden, it feels like this season, every coach has figured out, I just got to go for it all the time. Except Belichick. So it might have passed him by.
Do you guys not think it's funny, though? Is it not funny to you that as little as the mainstream media can know about a million different things, and Lord knows we get on a lot of shows, not Mina's show, but a lot of shows get on television just doing bullshit analysis on everything, and it's not actually in the weeds. Do you realize that what he's talking about here, getting in there and really understanding the game, like the way that we're analyzing this stuff is totally different now. And we were yelling for years about the math. I mean, on these leaders, these
Right.
guys who are CEOs, and we're trusting to be smarter than everyone else. And they don't understand a basic market inefficiency where the media is actually getting it right and screaming into microphones. You guys demanding accountability from others. Will you quit being cowards when the math supports you? So, of course, Josh Allen, this is totally swung. Of course, Josh Allen earlier this week, they're going for it on 4th and short. And you know that they should be going for it, even though they're down a field goal, even though you've been watching this. And before we're saying, ooh, tough decision here. What do you do? And it's not a tough decision. The math supports, even if you lose, that you made the right decision. They've learned it now, but some announcers still haven't learned it. I was watching a Browns game 2 weeks ago, and was it against the Chiefs or somebody else? They were telling Baker Mayfield to not go for it inside the 5 on 4th and 2 to kick a field goal to tie a game, when Stefanski's going to go for it on 4th and 2 from the inside the 5 every time.
Yeah, according to the math, the Browns go for it when they actually should, according to the new NFL math, more than anybody else in the league. They're also terrible at 4th downs.
I've seen Baker Mayfield sacked on 4th and 1 about 17 times this season.
You could have said you've seen him 4 times, and that's a lot. And that's the actual number. He's been sacked on 4th down 4 times.
4th and 1, sacked like 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage, too. Not little sacks where he's
sacked
running
into good field position for the other team.
Lax.
If they do something and it doesn't work, then you can't say the right decision was made.
Well,
that's not, no.
You're taking results over process. Yeah. I'm always going to go process there.
That's fine, but you can be wrong. I mean, probability can tell you 60% of the time it'll work, but if it's in the 40%, it didn't work, so it wasn't the right decision.
I don't think you're ever wrong when you have a result in hand. You can just argue that the math and the process was right, but then it ultimately comes down to execution. And if another team's better than you, then you probably deserve
the question becomes, on any life decision that you might be soaked in fear about, Billy, if I tell you the probabilities on your process suggest 58% success rate, wouldn't you, as a cautious sort, usually choose the thing that's more mathematically probable, whatever it is, life decision?
Yeah, but if it's wrong, it's still wrong. Just because 58% of the time it works, 42% of the time it doesn't.
I think
I like those married to the numbers.
I like those odds. I don't like the concept of punting when you're anywhere near midfield. Always baffles me. I know it's a game of real estate acquisition, but no, we can't risk a turnover here. What are we going to do? Just willingly give them the ball instead. That's not a turnover.
Here's the problem. So first of all, Dan, you said, "Oh, I can't believe they're doing this." The number of media voices who were yelling about the math was really small up until very recently, right? This wasn't a universal thing. And when you talk about coaches, one of the things that, working in the industry has taught me more than anything is they are an endangered species at all times. They always behave like this next thing is going to get me fired. That's why a lot of the great coaches are the people who've been with an organization for 100 years, because they know, I don't have to worry about that stuff. I can just go out there and coach. Eric Spoelstra can just go out there and coach. Greg Popovich can go out there and coach. Someone like Jamal Mosley, who's the new head coach for the Orlando Magic, he can't just go out there and coach. He's got to make decisions that are not just based on what's the best thing for this team right now, but what's the fallout if this thing goes wrong? If, like Billy said, if the 42% happens, what's the fallout? And so for a lot of those football coaches, yeah, they were punting, not because they knew this was the right play, but because they knew no one's going to criticize you for being cowardly in this moment.
It's just funny in this costume, this drape of courage and leadership that we have made the Belichicks of the world, that inside, deep inside, there is this cowardice to move just because it represents change. And no matter how many people were screaming, the self-interests are such that they still answer to the fear instead of the math. That's fascinating given what we think of these men as.
I've seen it firsthand with Alvin Gentry. When Steve Kerr was the general manager, Alvin coached fast and loose, and we were great. And then when we had a management shift, Alvin coached scared. And you could even sense it in the way he communicated, guys. He wasn't doing it the same way. And that was, to me, that was illuminating of the idea.
Man, that's crazy that a corporation could steal a coach's confidence.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, fear of failure does that. But look, there's this chart in the NFL that any situation, it tells you when you should go for fourth. I actually don't fully believe in that. I think that there is a true argument for gut feeling. Every game takes on its own shape. It really does. Oh, they've been stuffing me on short downs, on short yardage all the time. What am I going to run a quarterback sneak here? I don't necessarily feel. My defense has been really on this. Our coverage has been good. I'm going to trust my defense. When Bill Belichick famously went for it that Sunday night against Peyton Manning, it wasn't so much I have Tom Brady. That's not what the difference is here. A lot of people are saying that because it's Mac Jones versus Tom Brady, and that's why he's punting. To me, the bigger offense is when he had Tom Brady and he went for it, it it was out of fear of Peyton Manning. And Dak Prescott, he may not be Peyton Manning, but he was really good. Like, he just showed them how good he could be. And he just willingly gave the ball over back to Dak Prescott. And I think Bill Belichick needs to be kind of aware that Dak Prescott's not somebody that you give the ball back to in this scenario. You have to go for it on fourth down, even if you don't have Tom Brady anymore.
But it's not just giving it back. It's giving them the ball 60 yards further from where they are. Where if you don't get it, you do just give it back to them right there.
I actually, in those situations, I don't mind it. We see, outside of the Cleveland Browns, we see people get back to midfield with relative ease. And teams have a better chance of defending when they're closer to their end zone. It all depends on the actual score and scenario, but you got to stop them. You might as well stop them your first opportunity at midfield because that's still very difficult. You can't even kick when you're at midfield.
I'm really honestly more interested in the view from above on this stuff with what Amin is talking about, because when he's talking about how a corporation can steal a coach's confidence and how much of a straining grind it has been to get these cavemen to just pay attention to some of the math instead of John Gruden, who just got run out of the sport. When they said analytics to him, yeah, show me how many games that computer has coached, that we're now in a place where clearly it is not an act of bravery what Brandon Staley is doing, going for it inside his own 20-yard line. It's just him saying, look, this is how I'm going to play. I'm going to play fearlessly. These are just the numbers. These are the probabilities. I'm going to go for it on 4th and 7, 4th and 8. And
you don't think so, though? You don't think it's brave? Because I guarantee you in some of those scenarios where he's gone for it, even the math says don't go for this. I just know what's readily available in terms of the chart. But what that chart doesn't say is you're playing Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
That chart doesn't say the Browns have 500 yards of total offense with 0 turnovers.
It's not unlike people who say, there are some people who say if a guy takes a mid-range shot, oh, that's a bad shot. Well, it's not a bad shot if it's Steph Curry. Right. He's coming because the defense collapsed on him at the 3-point line. He takes a dribble and stops short and goes up for a 15-footer. So a lot of these kind of rule of thumb things when people are yelling, even as now we're at a place where we have more math at our disposal and people are championing the math element. The big problem is they still want to paint with a broad brush. And like Mike said, not every situation calls for it. So there are some times I think where, yeah, you didn't do what the quote-unquote math calls for, but that's because there's situational things happening here that would say, yeah, that wouldn't be the smart play.
I have JOK out with a high ankle sprain. His absence means my coverages can't be as intricate. So maybe I have to go for it here because I can't stop their quarterback with my defense. My defense is presently constituted.
Like on Monday night, did Sean McDermott get criticized after that? That was a risky move he did.
It wasn't
you could
risky.
You could just kick the field goal and go to overtime.
I'll tell you why it wasn't risky, even though it failed and it's process.
They lost, so it was the wrong decision.
Process over result. They did lose, and they could have lost if they tied it in overtime. And again, you're just playing probabilities. But the math was that Josh Allen in this situation had made it every time but one, and the one time he did not make it is when he fumbled because he's so big. He just fumbled the snap, and it wasn't about anything but a fluke. So they are good at getting this inch. And if I ask you in this situation, even though it failed, Billy, I just say to you, who would you rather be here? The team with the lead, 34-31, and 12 seconds left in the game, or the team that has the ball? Which would you prefer? Because now, finally, after much straining, football has gotten to the place where I think the majority of coaches are going to say, you know what? For an inch, if my offense can't get an inch in a play, I'll take the loss. I'll lose the game. It's fine.
But you didn't have to lose the game. You could have tied the game.
You could have played scared, kick a field goal, and missed it.
You could have also gone overtime. Titans win the coin toss, and Derrick Henry runs for 60 yards.
But you have like the best defense in the league. You could trust your defense, and
they weren't the best defense in the league then, which is I think also playing into what Sean McDermott. They were really struggling to stop Tennessee towards that second half. I think with the best short yardage quarterback in the league since Cam Newton, you'd do that every time.
But the argument you guys are making is the right decision was made.
Yeah.
Even when
the right
it
process
didn't work out.
but
the right decision was not made.
No, I don't blame the decision. You see, you're correlating the result with the decision. The decision was right.
Work out.
No, the execution was wrong. They didn't execute.
Little Stugotz over here. I mean, like
the argument is, and this is I've heard Nick Saban say the same thing. Yes.
Who won? Who won?
But in that spot, let me make you the coach. Do you go for it?
Kick the field goal.
You kick the field goal?
Yeah.
Is that because you have the result in hand? Or you just genuinely like, I like my chances in overtime?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like my chances. You don't like Josh Allen?
I like Josh Allen, but I like Josh Allen to get me a half a yard more than I like my fate being decided in part by a coin toss and then possibly having to match Derrick Henry and then Josh Allen. I feel like in this spot, let me get the half yard.
If I just said in a vacuum, you enter a football game and it comes down to getting 3 yards, would like that's a scenario that you'd play for, right? 3 yards? I've got to get 3 yards to win the game.
Yes.
All of us are choosing offense. All of us are choosing offense. We want the team with the offense.
Most NFL offenses worth a damn average over 3 yards per play.
But guys, all the time people kick field goals or kick extra points when they've just tied the game. They don't go for 2. Why don't they do that?
Well, more and more they're changing that. More and more you will see throughout. This is the next evolution of that. Although the probabilities there are smaller on that one. Like
in this scenario, we just need 3 yards. That's less. You need 2 yards for a 2-point conversion.
Risk reward on probabilities is slightly smaller for whatever the reason is.
Yeah, if I were a head coach, I'd probably go for it for 2 on my first attempt. And then on my second attempt, if I fail, then I'm chasing that and I'll play a conventional math game. But I like it when the Steelers had a lot of success opening the game, going for 2, and then they they map out all the exact scenarios after that fact.
That's how I did NFL.
Well, they
Blitz.
stopped doing that, and their offense wasn't as great.
Always went for 2 on NFL Blitz. Never, ever went for the field goal.
I feel like the fact that the Steelers kind of tried to do that, they were like, you know what, the new game, we can go for it every time, and then they quickly were like, oh shit, it's not working out as like we hoped it would.
It works when you got Le'Veon Bell, a younger Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, and Keith Miller. They have a different offense.
Oh, you mean it works when you're good? Oh.
What you guys are arguing though is for these people to go in and tell their bosses, "Yeah, we lost, but the process worked," and it's like, okay, but you lost.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, Billy. I go back to it's not even necessarily whether the math says you should do it or not. It's what's the fallout if it doesn't work? Will anyone begrudge me if I kick the field goal, we go to overtime and we lose? No. Will anyone begrudge me if I go for it and don't get it and we lose? Yes. And so as long as that, and you want to call it the court of public opinion or if it's just the guy in the owner's box, either way, that's what they're coaching against. They're not coaching against success or failure. They're coaching against what's the fallout if I fail.
Stugotz has always said that, but they're going to criticize me if I make the other decision, if I don't do the copycat decision. But that's where leadership is real, and that's why these guys specifically.
But the Bills are charmed. They're 4-1 at the moment, so they can afford to have a loss because they're going to be good. They know that they're good.
Another reason to play with confidence and without fear.
Yeah, another data point.
But every team can't do that.
Right.
Well, I mean, desperate teams can. Like, we definitely need a win. I think that there's so many more variables than just what a chart says. And by the way, the chart says you go for it there too. I think everything about that game pointed to making that decision. I understand you have the result in hand, but you're saying the result it was wrong because the result. I'm saying the execution was wrong. The process, the decision was right. You're just flatly saying the decision was wrong because they failed. I'm saying no, they failed because they didn't execute, not because they made the wrong decision.
I don't know how to argue that.
It was a very wordy way of saying this to you, that the decision they made was the most probable one. The result was wrong, but the process in choosing that probability is what you need to do.
But it's not a process. You just look at a chart. It says 52% yes, 48% no. Let me just always do what 52
But
is.
if winning is in the margins, if all these games are being decided by bounces, you'd like to have the coach with the most probable math, wouldn't you? Just in general, if you had no, not so much.
I want a coach. I want a coach that puts my team in the most probable positions to win a football game, and I think McDermott did that. And it's easy to do that, but there are different variables. Like, I have Josh Allen; he's gigantic. Our math says he's 100% at this scenario. It's not 52%. He's 100%. So you do it until you get stopped.
I talk about this all the time when it comes to teams. They say, oh, this is a top 5 defensive team. And I say, why? I say, well, look at the points allowed per 100 possessions across the season. I say, yeah, but when you get in the playoffs, that doesn't really matter because a lot of that is built on we beat the Timberwolves and held them to 80 points. Okay, like that's nice that you could hold bad teams. Does that matter in terms of the higher caliber of teams you play in the playoffs? And then specifically when you're playing against a specific team, does it matter against them as they are game planning everything about you and what you do and what your strengths and weaknesses are? a lot of this stuff, man, the math helps, but it has to be contextual on some level, because if it's not, if you think it's just like Mike said, a chart, it says go for it, then go
No,
for
there are
it.
human beings involved,
Yeah.
and so you program them through management and a bunch of other computations after just
Weather.
looking at a chart.
Beyond the
Weather,
human.
injuries. There's so many variables.
Exactly. Beyond the human beings, like the humans can do anything. They're crazy. It's like Mike said, there's just things that chart doesn't talk about or isn't detailed or granular enough for.
Billy, I don't even mean to be an indictment of like how careful you are with decision making, how prudent you are in decision making. And Amin is talking about needing coaches who can be prudent, but also a little bit fearless. If I just tell you this is your football team and you're up 3 points and the scenario is you're on defense, what did you want your football team to have the Bills do?
If I'm on defense,
You're on defense. Do you want them?
I want them to go for it and lose.
So you want them to go for it.
But I'm on offense. I'm talking to you from someone on offense.
No, I'm asking you to be the Titans defense. Do you want to be in the position where the Bills are making the decision and you want them to choose to go for it?
Yeah, because the field goal from that distance is going to go in more than likely.
Vrabel did play that. He let the clock run. He was kind of being criticized in it. Like, why isn't he stopping the clock in case they score? That was kind of him saying, I trust my defense here. I mean, it might not have, it maybe is not the play that is like the most statistically that's going to happen most times, but it worked out for him.
It is some man style stuff, right? Half an inch for the game. Here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to be the person do you want to be the person getting the half inch? Or do you want to be the person trying to prevent the half inch?
I'll be honest with you. Whenever my team is on defense in that scenario, I'm always terrified. I'm always like, oh my God, it's just an inch.
I would think it's a victory if someone comes out to kick the field goal. And I would say, thank you. Thank you for taking this game to overtime. I thought I was just going to lose it.
I'm a Browns fan, and the most recent Browns examples of teams going for it, whether it be the Chiefs in the playoffs or week 1 or that Chargers game a couple of weeks ago, I'm always like, shit, we're facing a smart one. And they're good on top of that. Shit. I don't think I can get this stuff.
Well, I mean, some of this is if you're actually good at this, and the most clever coaches and the bravest coaches won't even look at this as bravery. Wait a minute. I got Kyler Murray, and you're going to give me 4 downs to get 10 yards instead of 3? I'll play with that math a little bit. Like, you're going to give me 4 chances to get 10 yards when this is my quarterback, and you stopped him on 3rd and 9, and it don't mean shit that you got me to 3rd and 9 because you're still scared that I'm going to throw it 25 yards down the field or run 30 yards down the field or throw it 70 yards down the field. Like that to me is what we're watching. And that's a cool thing. I mean, you've seen some of this in basketball because I'm curious what's going on with the Pelicans, because you talk about process and result. I've heard all over the place, and I haven't even talked to Stan Van Gundy about this. I really have not. But that the Pelicans are a shit show. And that firing was a weird firing because Stan was looking around and being like, well, did we get better? Isn't that what a coach is supposed to do? Did we get better? And now Zion's showing up fat and Stan's not the coach anymore. And I thought Griffin was one of these forward-thinking people who knew exactly what he was doing. But I'm hearing a lot of bad things about the leadership of the Pelicans.
Yeah, it's puzzling to me. And to me, it started a long time before Stan. With what happened with Alvin, because this was a guy who started the season with everybody hurt. They were like 14th in the conference, and then he eventually got them to crawl back, and they were getting better and better. And then Zion comes back, and they're playing well. And right before COVID happens, they're 3 games out of this 8 seed with the easiest schedule the rest of the way. And then COVID happens, and we come back and you had 8 games, and they didn't play well in those 8 games. But to me, it was really puzzling. You're going to fire the dude because of 8 games in Orlando, and we're going to disregard the entire season that he had before that.
How much of this is predicated on just the general fear that they're going to lose Zion, and it's making them do bizarre things?
Well, I mean, look, there have been whispers that Zion and his family are very demanding in a certain way, right? And that's something that happened under Alvin, and that's something that happened under Stan, and that's something that happened this summer with him getting hurt and this being a big secret. And then They come out and they say he'll be fine for the season. And we all took that to mean the start of the season. And they said, no. I meant any time during the season. And I'm like, what are we doing here? We're playing games. We're trying to be cute with our language. But to me, a lot of that smacks of dancing around someone that you have to always be worried about in that way.